Ever have that one friend who loves something you know nothing about? Something you wish they could explain better? Well, this isn't that show. Welcome to Drunk Fandom, the show where we have a drunk person explain something they love to a sober friend who is clueless.
Drunk Fandom contains swears and other not safe for work content. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. The Fierce Ferrets do not condone excessive drinking, but if you do, please drink responsibly. Enjoy the show!
Hello, everybody. I know it's a little bit of a different format. We don't have Gideon here this time, but welcome back to Drunk Fandom. It's episode 3. I'm here with somebody you guys should know pretty well. It's the BATCLAM. She's going to be explaining Resident Evil to me. That's going to be fun. So I'm just going to go ahead and let you know what I know about Resident Evil. I know vague names. So I know that Chris Redfield is a person, and that Leon Kennedy exists, and I believe Jill Valentine, like, that's a thing that exists, but that's about it. Like, I know that there's and that shooty zombies. That's really all.
That's it.
That's the extent of my.
Those are the most important things. We're done. We already do an episode. You pretty much know all of
Man, dang. Okay, thank you for joining us for Drunk Fandom this week.
Oh man.
But yeah, and the only game that I've ever really I've played small, tiny chunks, like little chunks of like 4, and it was one of those things when I was like a little kid, so I don't remember any of it. And I've seen Resident Evil 7, which I've heard is vastly unrelated. So
but it's so good though. You're right. It's vastly unrelated, but it's so good. I'm not gonna get into 7. We're not talking about 7 on this because not even because of spoilers, because it's been a year. It's just Resident Evil 7 kind of starts like a whole new chapter on the franchise that it's really just something completely different, and if you learn everything in the background, it's a lot of fun to experience. I look forward to 8 actually. Which is good, because I didn't look forward to 6 after 5, but I'm gonna get into that. Is this where I start?
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Right. Wow. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna preface Resident Evil with some information because Umbrella is a I don't like using the word convoluted because it's not, but Umbrella is a mess. Umbrella is a giant mess, and I feel like I need to break it down a little before I get into the games, or else the games are confusing. And I think that's where the games fail, because they don't talk about Umbrella enough. So all you think of with Umbrella is like, oh, zombies, and it's like, well, it's actually a lot more than that, which explains all their weird-ass shit. Like, the puzzles in the mansion are actually explained. Which I know sounds ludicrous, but they are actually explained, are, like, legit a thing. It's not just a game mechanic, like, they actually exist. I know. Yeah, I'm aware.
You're speaking great.
I know. Okay, so it all starts with essentially 3 people. Technically it starts with one family, like every other drama in the world. It starts with one family that begins this I hate using that word, but it starts this giant bullshit train wreck that is Umbrella Corp. So it starts with the Ashford family. So this guy named Edward Ashford, right, he is not a scientist, by the way. I think he's a philosopher, but he's a guy who's like, you know what? If humans could evolve, we would be bitchin'. So he wants to evolve. Yeah, I know.
Right?
So he pretty much decides, you know what? Like, viruses change the body's chemistry. So if we could take what viruses do and do that same thing, but permanent and better, like, we could be amazing, but I'm not a scientist, so I don't know what I'm doing. So he meets these 2 guys. One guy who has, actually, I think he also has money, but he meets another rich boy. His name is Oswald Spencer, And then he meets a scientist boy. His name is James Marcus. So the three of them are like, you know what? We could do some really cool things if we could discover how viruses and the body's chemistry works with them to evolve the human body to be really, really cool. So they go off to... The region probably doesn't matter, but they go off into the unknown wilds. I feel like in Africa, but I feel like I might be wrong there. But they go into the unknown wilds, and it has to be Africa because of 5, but I'll get into that. Yeah, it has to be Africa. So they go into Africa because they hear this legend about, like, this flower that, like, shamans would eat to become super cool. And they're like, we need to find this flower. So they go off, and they actually find it. So they find this flower that if you eat it, you, like, temporarily almost become superhuman. And they're like, okay, we need to take this and find a way to make it long-lasting, and then we become awesome. So they take loads of these flowers back, and they start researching it. Marcus actually decides to stay in Africa. He's like, you know, I'm going to stay here because that seems smarter to do my research here, where I'm not involved with the government and other regulations and trying to get this... I'm going to stay here. So Marcus Marcus actually stays in Africa. So...
I'm just gonna stay here where governments can't come after me. That's great.
Right, yeah. So the rich boys, Spencer and Ashford, which Ashford, I don't want to say Ashford is more important than Spencer, but he's the family bullshit line that becomes a problem because there's 2 Ashfords right now. There's Edward and his son. Edward's actually like the oldest in the trio right now. He has a son already, and his son is like working with him. They're kind of partner. It's weird because his son is literally mentioned briefly, and then he doesn't matter for the rest of the series.
Yeah. So Spencer, okay, so I vaguely know I've heard the Spencer mansion mentioned before. Is that the same
that's
Spencer?
Him. Yeah, that's him.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly him. I'm about to actually get into the Spencer mansion because the 3 of them bring back the flower and they start researching it. And, you know, they realize, you know, we've got one scientist boy. We kind of need to expand a bit more because we got money.
Yeah, makes sense.
Like, you know, so Spencer builds a mansion, the Spencer Mansion. He builds that to hide a new research facility. And they found Umbrella to hide whatever they're doing because they're like, oh, well, we're researching viruses, so it makes sense to be a pharmaceutical company, so no one will wonder why we're researching viruses and other biochemical shit.
That's not a bad idea.
Right, exactly. So I'm just kind of like double checking. So Marcus is in Africa. The 2 Ashfords, because it's the Ashford family sucks. That's what you're gonna learn. So it's Edward, and he has a son, Alexander. And I always get confused by that, which I'll explain why. But there's Edward and Alexander. Edward is the dad, Alexander's the son. So Edward is the one who started all this. And Alexander, because he loves his dad for some reason, is like, oh, well, I'll continue your research. It's fine, Dad. Alexander decides to do this. Instead of finding a nice woman to settle down with, he decides, I'm just going to make some test tube babies because I want them to be geniuses, and that just seems like the safest bet. So he creates 2 twins. They're going to be important later, but just know that he's working on test tube babies. It's called the Veronica Project, and he's working on that in the background.
Man, that sounds awful.
I know. They're going to be important later, but he's like, I want genius babies to continue this because I'm not smart enough. Because neither of them are scientists. He's like, I'm not smart enough. I'm going to make these genius babies to do it. And that's going to be later. So they start like kind of like hiring some other scientists and researchers, and they make all these little factions in Umbrella. And one guy they recruit, I feel so bad for. His name is George Trevor. You might have heard, if you played the first game in any capacity, you've heard of it, because his daughter was Lisa Trevor, and she's like one of the most important people in the entire series.
I kind of vaguely know, just from what I've heard about the games in passing, know kind of who Lisa Trevor is.
Lisa Trevor is one of those people where even if you've barely played the game, you kind of know who she is.
Yeah.
She's the weird chain monster.
Yeah.
So, George Trevor and his wife I think her name's Elizabeth. She like dies. Like I don't even know her name because she pretty much like dies immediately.
Like every Disney movie.
But George Trevor is pretty much recruited, and they're like, "Yeah, George, come work with us. You're awesome." And I don't actually think I know why George is awesome, but they decide to work. I think he's I feel like he's a scientist, but I could be wrong. But they're like, "Yeah, George, come work with us. You're awesome." And George is like, "Well, I'm gonna be late, but I'm gonna send my family first, because like you live in a mansion, and that sounds cool." So he sends his wife and daughter, and Umbrella's like, "Oh man, we really need test subjects, and you're sending us 2 test subjects, so we're just gonna do that."
Cool. This guy just sent us his wife and daughter. Let's just, strap them up in a laboratory somewhere and do
exactly.
human experiments on them.
Exactly. Like, I don't even completely know why, but that's a thing that happens, and the wife dies, like, immediately. She just can't handle it. She's dead already. Like, but, like, poor Lisa is, like, the longest living test subject ever. Like, by the time you encounter her in 1, she's, like, okay, she starts at age 11. By the time you encounter her in Resident Evil 1, she's, like, 20? No, she might even be almost 30. Like, she's the longest living test subject, like, ever. I feel so bad for Lee, and that's why she, like, has, like, very childish lines, and you find her diary. She's, like, 11 when this happens.
Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like at that point, like, it would just be a situation of, please just kill me. Right?
Right. Basically. Well, she goes mad, her mom died, and she's an experiment. But yeah, so, which, this is where the traps come in eventually. So eventually George gets there, and he's like, "Yo, where's my family?" And they're like, "Oh, they had to go. Like, a relative got sick, and they just, like, they went to go take care of that." And George buys it.
What?
I don't know.
Wait a minute.
I know.
Wait a minute. No. A relative of his family died, and he doesn't know about it?
Right, yeah, no, he has no idea, yeah. They're like, "Oh, yeah, they said they had to go, because someone got sick." And at first he buys it, but eventually he's like, "I haven't heard from them in months." Like, did they actually leave? Yeah.
Wow.
Basically. George basically becomes infamous because you find his notes, and Spencer basically goes, "Well, we already used your family for test subjects, so I guess you're next, and I have all these cool traps that I'm gonna need later, and you're gonna test them." So you basically find his notes, and he's the one who explains to you, like, "Oh, you need, like, the clover key for this door." He's the one who finds all of that out, and is the one leaving you those notes. I know.
Wow.
I feel so bad. And that's the thing, they never really explain why this guy is even brought on. I think he's a scientist, but I don't actually know. They just hired this guy, and because he sent his family, they were like, "Oh, we might as well test." It's mad.
Yeah, fuck this family in particular. Just.
I don't really understand it because, like, they have other scientists and researchers by this point. None of them have this problem. It's just George Trevor and his
Poor
family.
Guy.
Yeah. So, so in any case, by this point, I always confuse him. Edward. Yeah, Edward's the dad. Edward dies because he's old. He by this point dies. So Alexander takes over. He's still working on his test tube babies. But, like, because he becomes, like, the head of the Ashford family, he kind of, I don't want to say he completely separates from Umbrella, but he doesn't really talk to Umbrella at this point. He's doing his test tube baby thing. Spencer's pretty much running the show at this point. And this is where Wesker and Birkin get introduced. I don't know if you know those names.
I know Wesker.
I'm sure you know, yeah.
Yeah.
Birkin is essentially the scientist guy from 2, if you might have seen him.
Mm-mm.
Okay, well, I'll get into him. But Wesker and Birkin are key figures. They pretty much get hired. They're scientists. Wesker's a scientist. I don't know if you knew that. He's actually a scientist. Yeah, I know.
No,
yeah.
The only thing that I knew about Wesker is that there's apparently 1 billion of them, and that's about it.
Okay, I'm not gonna get into it, but there were a whole thing about the Wesker children, and there's a whole lore behind them that they, like, abandoned halfway through the games. And so I don't even know if it's canon anymore, but there were a bunch of, like, oh, there's the Wesker kids, and they're, like, they were pretty much what, like, they were pretty much just, like, test tube babies as well, but I don't know if that's canon anymore, because they dropped that, like, halfway through the franchise, where they're like, it doesn't matter. So I'm not gonna get into that, really, so just, for now, I'd assume there's one Wesker, because I don't...
Okay, cool.
Yeah, someone else might know better, I'm sure we'll get comments about it, maybe I'm wrong, but it really never gets brought up in any Resident Evil game. So, so, back to Marcus, who is still in Africa doing his thing. Marcus is the MVP, who's pretty much actually doing what they should have been doing from the beginning, and he's like, oh man, I'm discovering ways to help disabilities and actually cure people of shit. So Wesker and Birkin, who are recruited, are like, that's cool, bro, why don't you tell us more? And Marcus is like, yeah, man, like, I've got the flowers, and they're doing this cool thing. You know, I'm starting to work on this virus. I discovered leeches actually help me merge the DNA with people more. And I'm thinking about calling it, which this is weird. He calls it, like, the tyrant virus, which I think is weird, because he was actually invested in actually helping humanity, but he called it a tyrant virus. Maybe Wesker did that. I'm not getting into that. But it eventually does get called the Tyrant Virus, and pretty much Wesker and Birkin share this information to Spencer, and are like, yeah, yo, Marcus is actually making breakthroughs, and he did this whole thing with leeches, and it's working. And Spencer's like, shit, he's gotta die, because we have so many other plans with that virus. I know! He's like, yo, no, we don't want that. We want to, like, sell this as a weapon, so he's gotta go. So Wesker and Birkin go and assassinate Marcus. Marcus dies.
Capitalists.
Right, basically. And Spencer's like, yeah, if you kill him, you can get credit for his work. I don't care. So Birkin gets credit for all the work Marcus did, basically. I know.
I cannot believe what.
I know, yeah. No, it's so shitty. So, but one of the most important, actually, of Marcus's little leech babies he was working on, she's called the Queen Leech. She actually crawls into Marcus's body, and they don't know about this, but she actually starts regenerating it. So he's gonna come back later. But for now, he's dead. Yeah, exactly, yeah, that face, pretty much. But for now, he's dead, so we're gonna pretend he's dead. Yeah, for now, he's dead.
God, I mean, at this point, Umbrella is, like, the most literally cutthroat, like, corporation in the world.
Basically.
What the shit?
I know. Well, it's like we could make money helping humanity, or
right?
Or hear
we
me
could,
out.
you know, continue to make breakthroughs and help evolve people, you know, to become, you know, less disabled and cure diseases and shit. But no, let's sell it as a weapon.
Right, basically.
Like, God, fuck corporation.
I know. Okay, so because Wesker and Birkin did the thing, Spencer's like, you guys are awesome. You're gonna be like my second in command to this point. Like, I'm letting you into the fold. So here's like Lisa, the little girl I've been experimenting on for like 20 years. Like this is her, by the way. You get to see her. And basically Wesker and Birkin get some ideas. Was like, oh man, like she's lived through what? We gotta experiment more on her because she's like gone through everything at this point. Why not? She's like, I know. I feel so bad for Lisa and Marcus. I feel so bad. Well, the entire Trevor family. I feel bad.
Yeah,
for, but...
fuck the Trevor family in particular.
Yeah.
Let's just find more ways to shit on the Trevor family.
Pretty much. Well, George is. I mean, everyone's dead but Lisa by this point.
Yeah.
Basically. So yeah, by this point, you remember the test tube babies? So,
yes.
so they've been completed and they're born and they're like, they're like, I don't want to say adolescents, but they're like kids. They're like preteen kids. Like they're getting older and they're really fucking smart. And they start actually working with the viruses while they're like 13 years old. They're already working with viruses. Like, oh, look at this. Yeah, they're super geniuses, pretty much.
That's crazy.
I know, yeah. So basically, they're like, oh man, like, if you use ant DNA with this, it becomes amazing. Yeah. So ants get involved with their experiments. They figure out some cool shit. That's just a side note, basically, that the twins are born, they're super smart, they're gonna come back later. They're actually a thing. The test tube baby experiment worked. And they're gonna be important later, yeah. Let me think. What the hell am I up to now? Wait, am I up to the twins? Actually, I might be up to the twins already. Wait. Twin babies, figure out the ants. This is why I wrote notes, because this is, like, the twins and the Ashford family make everything so confusing.
Yeah.
Right, like, the twins, because the twins keep being important, and then a side note. Like, they keep coming back, and then they're, like, in the background. And then they come back, and then they're in the background.
Yeah.
Actually, wait, no, I think I'm ready to talk about them more. Yeah. So, as, like 12, 13-year-olds, they're already doing this ant experimenting. So now they're getting to, like, 15, 16-year-olds, and they're, like, they're now realizing they're actually test tube babies, and their dad lied to them. Their dad lied and was like, nah, you're natural babies who are super gifted. And they're like, no, we were experiments, and you're a liar, Dad. So, because of that, the two twins, so it's a boy and a girl. It's, Alexia and Alexander? This is why I get confused, because he's, like, named after, because his dad is also Alexander, if I recall. That's why I always get confused with them. But basically, Alexia and Alexander get pissed at their dad for making them test tube babies, so they decide to experiment on their dad. With their, yeah, I know, yeah. They're like, Dad, you suck, basically. So they take the T-virus, the tyrant virus that Marcus worked on and then Umbrella got. And so they take that, and now they're modifying it with, like, ant DNA and, like, plant shit, like, all this other... They're turning it into a new super virus called the T. Veronica virus. And Veronica's a big name with them, because that was, like, their ancestor who made them their money. I don't know. They don't really go into why Veronica's so important, but she's... Yeah. Veronica's involved in naming all their shit. But they test this new virus they made on their dad, and their dad becomes, like... monster, basically. And Veronica's like, okay, this probably could have been prevented if his body had more time to adapt to the virus. So Alexia, who's basically the smarter of the two twins, you find out, is like, okay, I'm gonna inject myself with this, because while our dad became a monster, he was, like, really close to not being a monster. He was really close to, like, being a super cool evolved human being. And I think he just needs more time. So I'm gonna inject myself with this, and I'm gonna go into cryogen or whatever. You're gonna freeze me while this thing incubates, and I become awesome. So her twin brother, is pretty much left to be like, oh yeah, my dad and my sister are dead, and I took over, and lie. Actually, their dad's chained up in the basement because they don't know what to do with him. He's just a walking monster thing with tentacles. I don't know. They chained him up in the basement for some reason. And she's in a coma. And Alex is like, okay, I guess I'm taking over for whatever. But during this whole time, like, Birkin, the guy recruited with Wesker, right? He's a scientist. And he's getting jealous of the test tube baby twins, because he's like, oh my god, they're so smart, and they figured out this whole ant-DNA thing, and what the fuck, I need to do something. So he ends up creating the Hunters, which I guess isn't really that important, but I thought it was a neat side note, because he made these things and was like, cool, look at these monsters I made, and Umbrella was like, these are useless to us, why did you do this? So I just thought that was funny.
Here, I made you this.
Yeah, basically. He was like, listen, I know those twins are really smart, but look at this thing I made. And Umbrella was like, why did you do that?
Yeah, here, guys, have these, like, awful, weird lizard things.
Yeah. And they're like, Birkin, you're drunk, go back to the drawing board. I just thought it was a funny side note. It's actually not really important. That's what I'm saying, like, Resident Evil's not convoluted, there's just a bunch of stupid scientists, like, having a dick contest. Like an
basically,
EK's contest.
Yeah. I can see that being a thing, yeah.
So after Alexander is pretty much like, oh, my sister and my dad are dead, Birkin calms down. He's no longer doing dumbass experiments like the Hunters. He's like, oh, well, if the geniuses are dead, I can be the smart one again, basically. Birkin is the worst.
Birkin is the worst. Hashtag Birkin is the worst.
It gets worse. Like, when you find out, like, what happens with his daughter, you're just like, wow, parent of the year. But I'm gonna get into that later.
Oh my god.
We're almost done with we're not even up to Resident Evil 0, by the way. But we're almost there.
Yeah.
I know. We're almost done with the background, like, which is good, because...
Still doing the behind the scenes.
Right. It's almost there, though. But a lot of this is gonna help later, and I think that's why I feel bad that it's not included more in the games. And I think they try to with the notes.
Yeah.
They did a lot better with, Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles. I think the on-rails shooter, they did a lot better with kind of explaining more, because it became more of like a chronological thing where people could learn the story. Like the next part I'm about to bring up, I actually didn't know until I double-checked my research on, that, what was it? The mansion was actually not the first zombie epidemic, which I thought was interesting. They actually had one at a hospital. I don't know if that was in a side game or where that was brought up, but apparently, like, and this is also, like, where I'm looking at, like, Umbrella Y. Because Raccoon City had, like an off-town hospital, and apparently it was seeing a really high number of cancer patients. And so Umbrella was like, oh, well, maybe we can take Marcus's research and cure cancer. So they actually kind of, like, thought about doing maybe something good with it, but instead they just made zombies with it. So, they gave it to these cancer patients, and the patients were cured of cancer, but then they wouldn't eat. But they were hungry, but they wouldn't eat. So they starved to death, and became zombies. So it was almost like you guys were so close.
They cured cancer, but it gave them zombieism.
Right, exactly. And literally the only reason I'm bringing it up, because I wasn't even going to mention it, but Umbrella went in and they covered it up. Did I write down how? Because, again, this was, like, stuff I didn't really know, but I looked into it because, it led to stars being made. And... Okay, so this is when they started bribing the Raccoon City Police Department. So, the Spencer Mansion and everything was on the outskirts of this, like, nobody town called Raccoon City. So that's why Raccoon City is involved. They took this like forest area, and they're like, no one cares about this area, so we're gonna build a mansion here and do our experiments here because no one gives a shit about this area. No one's looking into it. The government's not looking into it. And so when they looked into this hospital, which was also kind of off in the woods, like on the outskirts of the town. I don't know why you'd put a hospital there, but it was there. But I was there first, like, hey, let's like just check if the T-virus can be like good. Like, maybe, and it couldn't. They became zombies, but they tried, I guess. Silver Star, I don't know, but,
No, it's the crooked gold star that you didn't even really try at all.
The Raccoon City Police Department obviously had to come in and, like, be like, what's going on? And bro was like, here, money. Like, don't tell anyone about this. Basically. And then, yeah,
here's $10,000.
Basically. And then they were like, by the way, since this might be important in the future, we're gonna make a task force called STARS to handle when we do fuck-ups like this. And that's why STARS was made, because of this. They were like, oh, we're gonna need a task force to manage when we fuck up. So we're gonna make STARS. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So that's the only reason why I'm even bringing it up, because it's like such a side note that isn't even important, except for the fact that STARS was the result of it. Because they realized that they're gonna fuck up a lot, and they made them. Okay, so, do you remember Marcus and his leech baby?
Yes.
Okay, we're going back to Marcus and his leech baby, yeah. So it's been like 10 years since Marcus died. And his leech baby has now revitalized Marcus's body, so now he's like a sexy leech Marcus. He's like 20 years young, because he was like, actually he's like 40 years, he was like 60 when he died, or some old age. So now he looks like he's like a 20-year-old. And he's like anime, like, bae face. And he's got leeches following him, because he's like, that's the weird part. So, he's not technically Marcus, but he also is technically Marcus.
Yeah.
Because, technically he's the leech queen possessing Marcus's body, but she has all of Marcus's memories. So she like is and isn't Marcus at the same time. So sexy leech Marcus is like, man, Umbrella tried to murder me when I was trying to like save the world. So I'm just gonna go kill them. So Leech Marcus unfortunately becomes a villain here because he tries to make his way to like the Umbrella facility and he finds this train heading there. I don't know if it was full of Umbrella employees or not. I don't know if he knew, but he pretty much destroys this train and everyone inside with his leeches. And I'm trying to think. So his leeches kind of start infecting people, and you know, like they start becoming zombies because the leeches have the T virus. Like they're pretty much T virus leeches. Because if you remember from his research, he discovered leeches help really like cement the T virus in people.
Yeah.
So with the cancer patients, it took a while because it wasn't really like. Excuse me, it wasn't really like settling in right away, but the leeches really cement that like, okay, you're infected now. Like that's it. You're absolutely infected now. So the little zomboids like start spilling out from Marcus kind of destroying facilities. There was like a handful of them in the region, and he kind of like made them zombos, and some of them start wandering towards Raccoon City, and Raccoon City's like, oh man, there's like cannibals. They don't realize it's all. Yeah, I know. Yeah, they're like, man, a bunch of cannibals are like attacking people. I know. Yeah, I know. So
that regular city problem of cannibals crawling out from the woods. I mean,
so,
if it was in the South, maybe, but
you know, I don't know what region. Here's the thing. I feel like it's actually in the north because they mention like the Arklay Mountains, which I know is not real, but isn't it? Maybe I should Google this. Gideon was on the internet when he did his. Hold on. I need to know now if Raccoon City's in the north or the south. Wait. I need to know what area it's located in. Hold on.
Bless you.
Thank you. I think it's in the mid... I feel like it's been referred to as a Midwest city. I don't know if that, like, counts it. I don't want Operation Raccoon City. Get out of here. Jeebus. I'm sorry, Raccoon City was founded in the 1950s? The town only lasted like 40 years? That's a terrible track record for a town. Jesus. Oh my god. Sorry, I didn't know that before doing this. I just wanted to know what region it was in. That's like all I wanted to know. I don't think it actually says. Maybe I'm wrong. I swear they call it a Midwestern town, though. I feel like I'm not imagining that, but I'm sure if I'm wrong, someone will correct me. Yeah, this just goes into the history, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I feel like it's Midwestern, but I could be wrong. We're going to leave it at that. What am I up to? Oh yeah, the cannibals. Yeah, the fake cannibals, right. So the RCPD, who I mentioned is now being bribed by Umbrella, is like, oh no, cannibals! We're gonna send stars to investigate, because we don't know what's happening, cannibals! Like, they're totally going on with the cannibal story, basically. Yeah, because Raccoon City is basically like, yo, we need to do something because there's like a bunch of random cannibal deaths and we're worried something is like behind this. And the RCPD is like, okay, we got a new task force, they're called STARS, they're gonna be great, we're gonna have them investigate the cannibalism that's happening. And this is where we're pretty much leading up to Resident Evil 0. So, STARS was founded back when I mentioned with that hospital. It was founded, and Wesker was put at the head of it. So now, Wesker by this point, I just realized I missed a whole section about Sergey. Sergey is one of those characters who's really important to the series, but is like never mentioned. He's like he is so important. I can't even believe how little he is mentioned because he's like in every single game, and no one even realizes it. Because it's like, by the way, Sergey did this thing that you didn't even realize. So, back when they were testing the T-virus, that they stole from Marcus. They realized a big problem with the T-virus is, like, 1 in every 10th
All
million...
of it.
Right, well, yes. Basically, 1 in every 10th million person would become a superhuman monster thing that they needed. Everyone else would, like, die or become a zombie. So, you had very rare genetics that would control when someone would become something cool that they could actually use, and not just a stupid-ass zombie. So this guy named Sergey became a volunteer test subject, and he ended up being the 1 in 10 millionth person whose DNA would turn him into a superhuman thing. So they pretty much, like, were like, okay, what can we pay you to have a bajillion clones of you? Basically. And Sergey was like, oh, just make me one of the heads at Umbrella, and, like, you can have as many clones of me as you want, basically. So, they take, like, 10 clones of this guy, and he becomes one of the big figureheads at Umbrella, and you pretty much never hear about him, ever. And the whole, like, it baffles me how, because he's, like, this background mentioned character when he's the whole reason tyrants exist. Like, if you know the tyrant monster, he's the reason they exist.
Huh.
Because his DNA allowed them to exist. Because before that, people just became zombies.
Yeah.
He was the rare DNA that actually became a tyrant. So, and then he starts this background militia that becomes important later. Because he's worried about Umbrella's assets and was like, we need a militia to cover shit up. So, going back to what I was talking about before with Wesker. Wesker starts Stars. That's like kind of his idea when that happens, because he's like, oh, we need to cover things up, which Sergey had the same idea. And I think that's why Sergey and Wesker don't get along, because much like the scientists, they have a pissing contest on who's smarter. So they just, like, fight all the time, and Sergey doesn't trust Wesker, Wesker doesn't trust Sergey, they hate each other. They try to kill each other several times, actually. They don't like each other. So, because Wesker doesn't trust Sergey, he kind of backs off from Umbrella for a bit until he starts Stars, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna start this organization for you to help cover shit up when you screw up. It's called Stars, so that's why I'm doing that. Okay, so now we're finally getting into the technically, timeline-wise, the first Resident Evil game, which is Resident Evil 0. It's not the first game ever made, it was made later, but it's a prequel, so timeline-wise, it is the first game. So Resident Evil starts off with the cannibal problem, right?
Yes.
Raccoon City's like, yo, what's up with the cannibals? And Stars is like, we're gonna look into it because we're awesome like that. So Wesker sends in, there's 2 star teams, there's Alpha and Bravo. So he sends in Bravo, and that involves a woman named Rebecca Chambers. It involves a bunch of other dudes, they all die. Spoiler alert, they really don't matter. Sorry, they really don't do anything significant to the series, they all die. And that's like a theme in Resident Evil, where you're introducing these characters who do nothing important and die. That's like the entire Resident Evil franchise.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm gonna be, like, not mentioning a lot of characters, because they kind of just come in, do one thing, and die. So, that's gonna happen a lot,
fair.
like, just a heads up. So, Rebecca's the only person who matters in Bravo. She's the only one who lives. Everyone dies. But Wesker sabotages their helicopter when they go to investigate the cannibals. So their helicopter crashes. No one dies in the crash, actually. They actually all live. They're fine. But they're stranded in the woods. And they go to branch out and investigate because they think the cannibals did it or something. So they go to branch out and investigate and think they're under attack. And they find this train. And Rebecca boards the train. And there's a bunch of dead people on the train, which is confusing. And there's a bunch of leeches on the train because of Sexy Leech Marcus. Which she doesn't know that, but... So she's on this train. She meets this guy named Billy Cohen. He's also not important. This is the only game he's ever in.
Yeah, I've vaguely heard of him and that he's an asshole. That's about all I know.
You know, okay, so he's actually not. He's actually not. He is painted as an asshole, but he if you actually play the entire game, he's not an asshole. He actually is the smartest character in the entire game, because at the end of the game, he's like, yo, I'm out. This is crazy. And he actually gets to live and lead a full life and abandons the entire Resident Evil franchise. So...
Okay, he is the smartest character in the entire game.
He's the smartest character in the entire game.
Look, there's this, like, Florida bath salts face eating problem happening. I'm gonna peace out, bye.
Basically, she finds him and she's like, "You're under arrest," and he's like, "Bitch, have you seen the zombies?" Like, when she finds him, she legit tries to arrest him. She's like, "Wait, I've heard of you. You're this guy we're trying to, like, send upstate to have executed." Because he's a convict who escaped, which, technically he didn't escape. Technically, zombies killed the officers transporting him. So he technically didn't escape. His officers just died.
Fair
And,
enough.
he's been wandering around this train not knowing what the fuck to do. Because there's zombies. But Rebecca finds him, and she's like, "You're under arrest." And he's like, "I don't care, there's fucking zombies. Either you work with me, or we die to zombies." You hate Billy at first, but he's like the best, because you find out, he was framed for a war crime. Like, he was in a unit, and they were told, it's not even, like, important to the series, but they were told to kill a bunch of civilians, and I don't remember I'm pretty sure he didn't listen to orders and actually didn't shoot anybody, but because he was in the unit that did shoot a shit ton of civilians, he was just arrested anyway. It's just some weird thing where you feel bad for him. Like, he has no real importance to the series, literally whatsoever. He's just the smartest character in the series.
Wait, okay, so I'm confused. Wait a minute. So
Yeah.
he was framed and convicted for a war crime, but he was with, like, small town, tiny cops?
Exactly.
Why?
There's a lot of weird things in Resident Evil like that make literally no sense. And I even commented on my notes in it, where I'm like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about this thing. It's dumb and makes no sense." That's most of Resident Evil. And that's why Billy is the smartest character in the universe, because when it's over, when they escape the train, he's like, "Yo, I'm leaving. You can come with me." And Rebecca's like, "No, I need to find my friends." And Billy's like, "Alright, but I'm leaving."
Have fun dying, bitch. Peace.
Basically. Literally, so the only important thing you need to know about Resident Evil 0 is that all of Team Bravo, like, dies except Rebecca. Actually, I forget which unit Joseph is in. I don't remember if Joseph is Bravo or Alpha. I'm pretty sure he's Alpha. I don't remember. Pretty much everyone dies on her unit, except maybe one guy. I don't know if Joseph was in her unit or not. I'm gonna come back to Joseph. I know I'm shoving a ton of names at you. I'm trying really hard not to.
You're fine.
Because
You're fine.
Resident Evil has so many characters that don't matter. Like, I try to not include them.
Bat.
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts.
I know. So the important things to take away from 0 is that, Wesker, jeopardized their helicopter and pretty much took a ton of research data. Because you essentially find out he is trying to sabotage Umbrella. Because he hates Sergei so much, he actually is starting to defect to one of Umbrella's competitors. And yes, this is actually their name. They're called the Third Organization. That's legit their name. I know. I wonder who the second organization is. Sorry. I shouldn't have made that joke. I know. They're called the Third Organization. But he's defecting to them at this point. And he talks to his bro, Birkin. And he's like, "Birkin, Umbrella sucks, man. Like, they don't, like, Spencer's an idiot. I'm out. I'm gonna steal their data and go to their competitor because they're dumb. And they're letting the zombies walk everywhere. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're gonna get caught." Basically. And Birkin's like, "Well, you know, I've been experimenting on that Trevor chick, and I think I have a new virus, so I think I'm gonna stay here because I kind of need her." And Wesker's like, "Alright, fine, but I'm out." And Birkin's like, "That's cool. We're still bros, right?" And Wesker's like, "Yeah, we're bros." And they're not, by the way, but I'm gonna get into that.
Whatever.
I just spilled beer all over me, but
Sure, we're bros. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever makes
Birkin's
not
like,
kill
"We're bros, right?" And Wesker's like, "Yeah, sure. Until I need to kill you later." And Birkin's like, "What?" And Wesker's like, "What?"
Yeah.
So, okay, so we were talking about Resident Evil 0 and how Billy Cohen is the smartest person in the series because he gets the fuck out.
Yes.
He's gone.
Mm-hmm.
He decides, fuck Resident Evil and everything it's about, and I'm gonna go live a normal life, and that's Billy Cohen. Yeah. I even wrote in my notes, I literally wrote, "Billy gets GTFOs because he has a brain." That was literally in my notes.
Yep.
So Rebecca is like, okay, some of my team might be alive. Because during Zero, she finds her lead. I think his name's Enrique. I'm pretty sure it's Enrique. Because Resident Evil kills... I don't want to make Resident Evil sound racist, but it kills a ton of Spanish people. There are a ton of Spanish characters who die throughout this series. I know. Like, I've gone through this and so many Spanish characters die, and I'm like, Resident Evil, man, you gotta keep, like, at least a handful alive, bro. Like, so many of them die. But I shouldn't get into that. But Enrique dies, and he was pretty cool. He was her boss. He was the head of the Bravo team. He died. And, he died trying to tell her that Wesker was a traitorous bitch. Like, he knew Wesker was a traitorous bitch, but he died before he could tell her. And she's like, okay, I don't know what happened to the rest of my team, so the Spencer Mansion's in the distance, and that looks like a landmark, so I'm gonna go there, because I'm pretty sure it's been a day, and Alpha Team's gonna realize we're missing. So that was kind of smart of her, because she was like, I gotta go somewhere where they're gonna find me, because I might get lost in the woods and die. Whereas Billy, who actually has survival skills, was like, no, I'll be fine. And as far as we know, he's fine and lives forever. So...
Yep. In the canon of our hearts, he lives forever.
So Rebecca goes off to the Spencer Mansion. Now we're Resident Evil 1.
Just like dog meat.
Just like dog meat. So, just to backtrack a little with Resident Evil 1. So, Wesker tried to sell stars to Umbrella. He started stars. He's like, listen, this is a little group. I'm not going to tell them about Umbrella. They don't know they're working for Umbrella. They're going to think there's some special task force for Raccoon City. Because for some reason a backwater town needs a special task force, but no one caught on to why that was weird. So he's like, listen, Umbrella, I'm going to make this task force, we're going to handle your shit and cover things up, and I'm going to lie to them so they don't realize they're covering your shit up. It's a win-win. And Umbrella's like, well, Wesker, because Sergey's like one of our bosses, we don't really trust you anymore, but sure, okay, yeah, Stars is cool. So Wesker, hearing about all the cannibalism and stuff, is like, okay, guys, listen, you're in trouble. They're going to eventually realize the cannibals are not cannibals. They're going to realize they're zombies, and they're going to realize you're involved with your secret-ass facilities in the woods. And Umbrella's like, shit, you're probably right. So Wesker's like, I have a plan. I'm going to send them in, right? So I'm gonna send Stars in to investigate the cannibals, but I'm actually sending them in as guinea pigs, and you're gonna test all your cool bio experiments on the Stars team and figure out what they do, because you've never gotten to have live testing on these guys. They've been in cages this whole time. You're gonna live test them on Stars, because there's nothing we can do about the zombies breaking out. Like, we're done for. Raccoon City is probably gonna, like, eventually get infected. We're in trouble. So for now, why don't you let me test your shit out? We're gonna collect some data on testing your shit out. And then we can destroy Raccoon City, we can destroy Stars, we'll get rid of them, it'll be easy to cover them up, who cares? I'm gonna collect this data for you, it's gonna be sweet. And
so it's basically, we're gonna get caught anyway, so if we're gonna get caught, we may as well go out with a blaze of glory, right?
Exactly. Wesker sells them this idea, and they're like, you know what, Wesker, if you do this for us, you successfully do this for us, you're cool again. Basically. They're like, okay, we're gonna trust you, even though right now we don't trust you.
That's smart.
I know. I don't... So many bad decisions get made in this series. So anyway, so this plan gets set into motion. So Bravo goes missing. You know, we just learned Rebecca's like the only survivor. Yeah. She ran off to Spencer Mansion, but Alpha is like, yo, we haven't heard from Bravo. And Wesker's like, oh, I guess we better go look for them. Whatever. I don't actually care, but I do care. So they go into the woods with their helicopter pilot, Brad, who can suck a dick. Brad sucks, by the way. They go into the woods and they find a helicopter. Yeah, his name is Brad. They go into the woods and they find a helicopter crash. And this is actually where I learned what the word derelict means. So, fun story. BATCLAM loves Resident Evil. I meant to mention this in the beginning, but I'm drunk. BATCLAM loves Resident Evil is because when she was 5 years old... Wait, was it 5? I was born in 1989. Actually, I might have been like 8. Between 5 or... I had to have been 8, actually, maybe. Okay, I get confused because the events of Resident Evil, the main events, take place in 1998, but I think the game actually came out in 1996. So that's why I always get confused.
Yeah.
So I was a youngin', that's the point. I was a youngin'. And my cousin was like, I was in South Carolina with my cousins, who was like 20, and he's like, hey, you want to see this cool game even though you're like 6 years old? And I was like, yeah, I do. I love video games. So he locked me in a room with him while he played Resident Evil 1. And that's what started BATCLAM's love of horror, basically. So I meant to bring that up in the beginning, but I didn't. But in any case, so I learned the word derelict because when Chris Redfield is describing what he finds, he describes it as they find the derelict helicopter of Bravo Team. It's a disaster. It's been torn to shreds. And they find poor... I feel so bad I forget his name. He died in the crash. He was fucking... What's his name? He was part of Bravo Team. See, I don't even remember... It's gonna bother me, I don't remember his name. But they find the helicopter pilot from Bravo. He died in the crash. But, like...
Yeah.
His eye has been torn out, and he's been, like, partly bit and scratched up. And they're like, well, that's weird. So they find this derelict crash, and they leave. And they're like, this is weird. This is probably not good.
Must be cannibals, you know, it's
It might
fine.
be the cannibals who doing so much of that. And then, I feel like his name is Joseph. Joseph wanders off, because they decide, let's split up and look around and see what caused the helicopter crash. And Joseph splits off and gets eaten by dogs. And they're all watching Joseph get eaten by dogs, and they're like, huh. So Joseph dies. And they're like, shit, we should go. Yeah, there's this footage of Joseph being led by dogs, and Jill is just like, huh. And she's in shell shock, which I'm sure they all are. Just like, huh, that's not good. So they're like, we should go. And they go back to their own helicopter, which has left. Because fucking Brad, who drove them here, was like, bitches, I'm out. And leaves. He fucking leaves them in the woods. To die to zombie dogs.
So what you're telling me is Billy and Brad are both smart.
No, Brad's not smart because he goes back to Raccoon City, which I'll get into
Oh no,
later.
he's super dumb.
He's an idiot.
No,
he goes back
he's
to
hella
Raccoon
dumb.
City. Yeah, he not only abandons them, but he goes back to his superiors and essentially tells them he abandoned them there.
Wait. Let me just go wrap myself out to my boss, man.
Yeah, I don't know. So Brad leaves. He's out. And Chris literally in the intro is like, Brad, where is he going? Like, they're freaking out because Brad left. And there's a bunch of zombie dogs trying to eat them. So they see this mansion, which of course is the fucking mansion Rebecca ran to. They see this mansion, and they go to that. And this is where it gets really annoying. So Resident Evil 1 is, like, legit my favorite game in the whole franchise. Not even the first one, actually. It's the remake of the first one is my favorite game in the whole franchise, because they redid a lot of the lore, and they fixed a lot of problems they did, because the first game they made, like, much like Final Fantasy, didn't mean to have sequels. Capcom, back when they made the first Resident Evil, was like, wow, the horror genre has, like, 0 video games. We should capitalize on this. And they made Resident Evil. And it took off, and they were like, well, shit, now we have to make more games.
Yeah, that's
So-
that's what happened with Kingdom Hearts. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. So,
Yeah, Tetsuya Nomura was like, okay, let me make a game, and then they were like, oh, well, shit, it's a popular game. Let me just pull a bunch of lore out of my ass.
right, exactly,
and make
exactly.
the game.
So, when they remade 1, they fixed a lot of the, like, lore problems from the original. So when I talk about 1, I'm going to be talking about the remake, for anyone who wants to correct me, because I know the first game was weird and didn't actually make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
But the remake of 1 did. Okay, so Resident Evil 1, if you've played the game, I don't remember if you said you played part of it or any of it.
No,
Resident Evil 1,
4
you
is the
played
only
4,
one that
okay.
I've played. But the only thing I know about like Resident Evil 1, and this is completely off topic, and it's not. I mean, it doesn't really have like anything to do with the lore of the game, but The one thing that I do know is that whenever they remade the game, there's the dog jump scare that comes through the window.
Yes.
That they changed it in the remake to still scare the shit out of people,
It's so
and I was
good.
like, "It is the most clever thing ever."
I'm so excited because they're remaking 2, and I can't wait. I'm so excited. But then again, I love Resident Evil. Growing up, it was like my favorite franchise, and I feel bad because I fell out of love with it around 5, and you'll find out why. I wrote notes upon notes about it, but
Okay.
going back to 1, which is my favorite game in the franchise, the remake of 1, not the original one. So the problem with 1, and what confuses a lot of people, is you can choose to play Jill Valentine or Chris Redfield. So you got the boys, right? The boys of stars, and that's Chris Redfield, who's the action hero throughout the entire friggin' franchise. You got Jill Valentine, who's a boy despite being a girl. She's a boy of stars. She's rockin' amazing. Yeah, Barry Burton, who's also amazing, even though he kind of fucks up, but he's still amazing. And they got Wesker, and Wesker sucks, because he's lying the entire time. So they're all in the main lobby. And if you play as Jill, Jill is like, oh no, Chris is missing. And if you play as Chris, Chris is like, oh no, Barry's missing. And both of them are lying. I don't know why they did this. I guess for gameplay mechanics. Both of them are right and wrong. So Jill's playthrough has half the story right, and Chris's playthrough has half the story right. I don't know why they did this. I know. So I'm gonna explain it how it is canonically, to not confuse you.
Okay.
So, what happens is they get into the mansion, and Wesker, who is lying to them and the instigator, and brings them here to give Umbrella Corp data on how their monsters fight trained tactical operatives. That's the whole point why he did this. He's like, before this blows up, I'm going to give you data on how your monsters actually work. Because they're already here, they've already been released, you may as well find out if they work. You may as well find out. So Wesker is like, we should split up. I'm not being suspicious at all. We should split up. And
So Wesker is Freddy. That's what you're
Chris
telling me.
and Jill are like, well, you're our boss, so I guess we have to, but this seems like a really bad idea, but sure. And because Jill's a woman, she doesn't split up. Sorry, am I being loud?
No, you're fine. It was my grandpa just telling me to be quiet. That's all.
So, because Jill is a woman, she doesn't get to split up. She has to go with Barry, because it's the 90s, and, you know, she can't go alone. So, Jill
Because
goes with...
Scooby-Doo. Yeah.
Right. Jill goes with Barry, and Chris goes alone, and then Wesker goes alone. Which actually, Wesker lies. He's like, I'm gonna stay here while you guys split up. I'm gonna search the hallway. So while they all split up, Wesker goes into a super secret, like, surveillance room and starts watching them like a creeper. So... So canonically, it's Jill and Barry are off exploring, and then Chris is off exploring. And not much throughout the game is canonically important. They experience all the traps I mentioned. The traps in the mansion are canonical. They exist. I know that's weird. I don't... You know, it's never really clear why Spencer did that. But, you know, he's also, like, 80 by this point. So maybe he's just... You know, he was a young man in the 60s, and now we're in the 90s. So, actually, I guess then he's like 60. I'm 20 years off. But, you know, he's getting old by this point. He's in a wheelchair. He's got, like, an oxygen-breathing machine.
Yeah.
So who the fuck knows why he does anything by this point, but he runs Umbrella.
He's eccentric.
Right. He decides the mansion's full of traps, which he used George Trevor to test, and when the mansion got... when Marcus attacked and got the facility infected by zombies, he was like, you know what, I guess I'll just make all my traps active, because why the fuck not? So, the traps are canonical. Which, I'm not gonna lie, I find it interesting they actually made them canonical. Because you could have easily just been like, no, they're a gameplay mechanic. But no, they made them canonical. Like, those traps exist.
Yeah.
And that's why they're such a joke. But I won't get into that. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Okay, so the two sides of it are, Chris is the most important side because he's Chris. He finds Rebecca. He also finds another member, Joseph. That's Joseph, the guy who I can't remember what team he was on. If he's Bravo or Alpha, I forget. They find Joseph. Joseph's been bitten by a snake. And canonically he gets saved, and you save him. And then later he dies anyway. But you can fail to save him as per game mechanics. Canonically he gets saved and then dies later. So poor Joseph. But Joseph exists. Rebecca's more important. Chris finds Rebecca. Jill and Barry, nothing really important happens with them. Barry makes the Jill sandwich reference everyone knows and loves. I don't know if that's canon. I assume it is. Because why not? Mansion traps. Spencer's a sadistic fuck. Yeah. As fun as Resident Evil 1 is, a lot of it is not important after that point. A lot of it is just they're exploring, you find notes, you find more about the Umbrella, how the cannibals aren't cannibals, they're zombies. The itchy tasty note, the famous itchy tasty note.
Yeah.
About the one janitor who would play poker with the other guys. And he would take, he wasn't a janitor, he was the dog keeper. He would take care of the dogs. And he didn't notice when they stopped eating. Or rather, he did notice and wrote it down, but didn't think it was weird that they stopped eating. Which I always laugh about. But they all became Zambos, and they were leaking out into Raccoon City, and it's this huge problem. So Chris and Jill, they all find out they're not cannibals, they're zombies. They're finding out about the T-virus. So, eventually, they get to the end of the mansion, they get through all the traps, everything that's happened, they find Wesker. Wesker monologues about how he's actually an evil douchebag and he's working for Umbrella, which isn't true. He's actually working for that third organization people. He's actually a triple agent. But at this point, he's like, oh no, I work for Umbrella. Right, I know. But he tells them, the triple agent shit gets old. Wesker's not the first triple agent in the game. He's not the only triple agent. It's bullshit. But I won't get into that yet. But yeah, so he monologues and he's like, you all suck. I'm working for Umbrella. You're gonna die here. I'm gonna inject myself with the T-virus, and it's gonna be awesome. Except it's not. He injects himself, and then he lets out, one of the monsters there, the Tyrant, one of the clones of that guy I mentioned, Sergey.
Yeah.
He lets out one of the Sergey clones. The Sergey clone kills him. Kills him, quote unquote. And Chris and Jill are like, well, goodbye, Wesker. We didn't care much about you. And they kill the Sergey clone, and they start the self-destruct in the mansion, because everything in Resident Evil is a self-destruct. And they get Rebecca, and they escape the mansion, and Barry and everybody. Everybody escapes the mansion before it explodes. Wesker wakes up briefly before it explodes. They thought he was dead. He's not. He wakes up after being stabbed by the Tyrant, and now he's like a super amazing human for some reason. So Wesker becomes like the one guy who actually does evolve and become amazing. The whole point of Umbrella Corp from the beginning. Wesker's like the one guy who actually lives that. Are you napping? I keep seeing blankets moving. Sorry. I realize that's unimportant to the podcast. It was just like, I kept seeing flashing in my eye. So Wesker's the one guy who actually lives the dream of Umbrella and becomes an evolved human, basically.
Yeah.
But after injecting himself with the T-virus and waking up minutes before the mansion explodes, he's like, well, shit, I better pick up everything I can and get out of here, because the mansion's about to explode. Oh, I forgot something. I'm sorry. Before Wesker wakes up, that guy Sergey I mentioned, he also comes down here, hearing about everything that happened, and he doesn't trust Wesker. So he comes down here and initiates something called, I wrote it down because it's like never mentioned ever. It's actually mentioned in the movies of all things, even though the movies have nothing to do with the video games. It's called the Red Queen Protocol. And it wipes all of Wesker's credentials. So it pretty much tells the computers, hey, Wesker doesn't work for us anymore, he sucks. So it wipes all of Wesker's credentials and takes the data he had been collecting this whole time on the STARS operatives, that thing he promised Umbrella he was going to get them. Sergey steals that. He's like, fuck you, I'm taking this. So he does that and leaves. So Wesker wakes up from his death experience and tries to take the data. Finds out he's no longer an Umbrella employee. His credentials were wiped. because Sergei's a giant troll who is never mentioned, but really fucks up everything Wesker does throughout the series. But, he finds out he can't take the data with him, so instead he grabs a ton of T-virus, like, vials and leaves. So, the mansion blows up. All the main characters escape in a helicopter. Yay, happy ending. Wesker takes the T-virus samples back to that organization. How did this tablet get? I had originally made it so it wasn't, like, in the screen that much. Sorry. So, he takes a bunch of T-virus samples, he gets the hell out. Sergei takes his data, gets the hell out. Mansion blows up. Chris and Jill escape with Rebecca. Everything's cool, I guess, aside from that. So yeah. So, they leave. Chris is pissed at this point, after everything that happened, which is understandable.
Yeah.
The cannibals were zombies, he found out. So, he goes back to the, Raccoon City Police Department. And he's like, hey guys, you know how, STARS was sent to investigate this shit that happened? They're not cannibals. There's something bad going on, and we need to warn Raccoon City and maybe evacuate them. And the RCPD, who is being bribed by Umbrella at this point, I forget his name. His last name is Chief Irons. I forget his first name. Chief Irons, who runs the RCPD, who's being bribed by Umbrella, is like, bro, you're crazy. Bro, nothing's happening. You're crazy. I don't know what you've been seeing. Maybe you're on the drugs. You're crazy. So Chris is pissed because no one's believing him. He's like, guys, like, they're not cannibals. They're zombies. Like, this is bad. We need to evacuate Raccoon City. So that doesn't happen. Chris gets pissed off and leaves. He's like, alright, fine. I'm gonna go investigate myself. Hi, honey. Sorry. So Chris leaves. He goes to investigate himself. He's like, you know what, fine. I'm gonna look into Umbrella. I'm gonna stop their zombie shit and fuck Raccoon City, I guess, because they're not listening to me. So Chris leaves. Meanwhile, Wesker goes back to that third organization I mentioned.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have that data he promised them. He promised them data that he couldn't get because his access was revoked because Sergei's a troll. And he's like, okay, I don't have that data, but here are the T-virus samples. And the third organization is kind of like, well, that's not what we wanted, but it's something, so I guess you can, like, get in on this, but, you're not cool yet. You're like a third-tier employee. You kind of suck, but at least you're in.
Yeah.
So, Wesker remembers his good pal Birkin, and how Birkin was working on that G-virus. So Wesker now is like, alright, what if I get you this cool other virus I heard about that they're doing? And the third organization is like, okay, I'm listening. You can maybe check out this other virus. That would be cool. And this is where we're going to get into Resident Evil 2. Actually, that's not true. We're going to get into Resident Evil 2 and 3 at the same time. This is where the series now reaches true convolution. I know I mentioned that the series isn't really that convoluted. This is the only convoluted part of the series. Because Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 happen at the same exact time. And
weird.
It's very weird, because technically Resident Evil 3 happens first, and it kind of sandwiches Resident Evil 2. Yeah. So, I'm trying, it was so hard trying to break this down, because it technically starts with Resident Evil 3. So basically, when Chris left, when he was like, you know what, I'm gonna go, because you're not listening to me about all the things I told you. So Chris left, and, he told his good friends Barry and Jill, who actually believe him. He was like, listen, guys, the RCPD's not listening to me, so I'm gonna go try and explain to someone that Umbrella's making zombies.
Yeah.
Basically. And Barry was like, you know what, Chris, I'm with you, but I actually have a family, unlike you guys, so I'm gonna make sure they're safe first, because Umbrella's a bunch of shitheads. So Barry's going to take care of his family, and Jill is like, Chris, I'm with you, but first, I'm gonna go finds some extra intel in Raccoon City for some reason. I don't know why Jill does this, but she's like, I think I can dig up more dirt on Umbrella, so I'm gonna stay in Raccoon City and figure that out. So while Jill is doing that, Birkin, you remember our good friend Birkin who's working on the G-Virus?
Mm-hmm.
He's also in Raccoon City. He actually has a secret bunker in the sewer of Raccoon City that not even Umbrella knows about. And he's been working on this G-Virus. His wife is actually his partner, which is dope, I guess. I mean, if they weren't such shitty parents, I'd say they're kind of like Gideon and I. They're tight. You know, they're working on that virus thing together. It's pretty lit. You know what I'm saying? It's lit, Deacon. So they're working on that G-Virus, and they actually perfect it. But Birkin, right? Birkin comes up with this brilliant idea, right? He's like, I could give this to Umbrella, or I could make a shit ton of money selling it to the government instead.
I guess that works.
So he decides to double-cross Umbrella and sell it to the government. So he's chilling in his bunker waiting for the government to come rescue him. And Umbrella is like, what the shit, bro? We literally funded your research, like all these years. We had you kill Marcus, who was probably the only good thing about Umbrella. Which, by the way, what happened to Sexy Leech Marcus? I'm just saying, like, he never shows up again.
He was a plot device for that one.
He was a plot device, Deacon. I mean, you fight him, but you're led to believe he escapes, and, like, you never see him again. Anyway. So, while he's waiting to be extracted, I don't know if you know who Hunk is. For any Hunk fans out there, this is where your boy Hunk comes in. He's a random Umbrella operative who's given a name because people liked him. Basically. His name's Hunk. He comes in to try and steal the G-Virus from Birkin and bring it back to Umbrella. He has a team of like 3 other dudes who die. Because that's Resident Evil's track record. They just kill characters left and right. So, they kill Birkin. But before Birkin dies, he injects himself with the G-Virus. So while Hunk and his 3 dudes are running away with the samples of the G-Virus in their little briefcases, Birkin wakes up, now as a giant monster. They end up just calling him G, because they're super clever like that. But he hunts down Hunk and his operatives, kills the other 3 dudes that kills 2 dudes Hunk was with. Hunk and one other dude escape. I forget his name, though, because he's, like, not important. He's really not. He has a name, but he's really not important, because that's all of Resident Evil.
Yeah.
As you learn about dudes who really aren't important later. The 2 dudes he kills, though, were carrying G-Virus boxes. So he kills them in the sewer, right?
Yeah.
And the G-Virus bottles that the dudes were carrying, drop and fall in the sewer. And rats get to it. And it gets into the water supply. So, all of Raccoon City becomes a zombie disaster. That's basically how it happened. Was because Umbrella just had to go and kill Birkin. Or, I guess more specifically, Birkin had to go and betray Umbrella. It's this giant domino effect of everyone being a giant bag of dicks.
Wow.
Yeah. So, remember how Wesker was like, this is probably gonna blow up anyway, we should do just some tests? He was totally right. Because thanks to Birkin, all of Raccoon City gets infected. Because it's in the water supply. So, you know, that's it, literally, for that town. They're done. Yeah. It's in the water.
They're dead. Yeah.
I don't want to talk about the side games, but you play an Outbreak as a bunch of random survivors at a bar, and I don't understand how none of them are really infected, because it's in the water supply, but I guess I won't get into that. They're kind of infected. It's fine, it doesn't matter. It's really a side game that people just play because they want to be zombies and eat each other. It was a giant troll video game, really. So I won't get into it. In any case, so all of Raccoon City gets infected at this point. The government catches on pretty quick, actually, that this happened. So they publicly announce, oh shit, some radiation leaked in Raccoon City, so we're gonna cordon it off. I know, yeah. So we're gonna cordon it off, because there's a radiation leak. Oh, the face you're making. I know. Yeah, the government's in on it, basically. They're like, oh no, radiation! Oh no! Oh no! How did
Radiation.
this happen? Yeah.
Radiation would not do that, though. That's not how radiation works.
You know.
Okay.
So like, oh
Go
no,
back and listen to the Fallout episode. That's not how radiation works.
So they're like, oh no, radiation! We're gonna cordon off the city because we can't have anyone else be irradiated. Okay. So all of this I've been talking about, 2 and 3 haven't started yet. This is all the prefaces to 2 and 3. So just to recap, Chris has left, Barry has left, Jill is still in the city. Because she's the main character in 3, actually. Which I'm gonna start with, because technically 3 starts before 2. 3 literally sandwiches 2.
It's a Jill sandwich.
It is exactly a Jill sandwich, you're right. I'm trying to condense this because I don't know how long I've been talking. It's amazing,
You're
like,
fine.
the first 3 games are so thick, and then 4, 5, and 6 are like nothing. And it's a little sad. Like, 4 especially is a giant pile of nothing. I know that's the one game you played.
Yeah.
It's pretty much a giant pile of just Chris being an, not Chris, just Leon being an action hero. Which I'll get into. So we're up to, technically we're up to Resident Evil 3. Because 3 starts before 2. What?
Be careful what you say, though, Bat.
Why?
Wombat is listening.
Oh, here's the thing. Leon's amazing. I am not denying that, but he is an action hero. He's amazing, but he's an action hero. And I know Wombat hates Chris. I love Chris, but I understand Chris is even more of an action hero than Leon. They totally action hero up Chris, and it gets worse. And I still love Chris, but I'm like, poor Chris, baby, what did they do to you? Like, by 5 especially, but you'll find out when I get to 5.
Okay.
Poor Chris, baby. So we're up to 3.
So, Jill sandwich game, yes.
So Jill stayed in the city because she was trying to collect intel on Umbrella, because they all hate Umbrella, obviously. But unfortunately, she stays too long. So Raccoon City starts becoming zombie infected. It actually, apparently it happens during a football game I read, which I didn't know that. Apparently, a football game is where it really erupts. Apparently, like, half the audience turns into zombies during that game. And it becomes totally... That's a worst nightmare right there. Like, I can't even imagine being at a football game and suddenly the guy sitting next to me becomes a zombie. Like...
I mean, to be fair, I can't even imagine sitting at a football game, so...
Same, fam.
Let's be real.
So, yeah. So... Jill realizes now there's zombies during, I guess, one of her, whatever she was doing. She's like, oh shit, there's zombies, like, everywhere, like, in that fucking mansion. So she tries to get out. She runs into, you remember Brad?
Yeah.
She runs into Brad. Brad doesn't know how to handle the zombies because he fucking ran. So Brad has been bitten by a zombie. And he's like, Jill, help me. Oh my god, I don't know what's going on. But before Jill can even help him, out of the goodness of her heart, she does decide to help him. Before she can, a new experiment called Nemesis comes in and murders the shit out of Brad. Brad is now dead. Horribly! Because Nemesis murders the shit out of him. Nemesis is hell-bent on destroying the STARS members, and interestingly enough, no one knows why. Even if you look into the deep lore of Resident Evil, no one actually knows why, but Nemesis, all he can say is STARS, and he just literally hunts them and ignores everything else around him. There's speculation
Okay.
that he is one of the clones of Sergei who is super enhanced because he looks like a mutated Sergei in a trench coat. So, like, it's debated he might be one of Sergei's clones. I don't know. There's no real confirmation. He looks like Sergei, pretty much, though. So I believe that he's, like, one of the Sergei things that have been advanced to whatever
Yeah.
the fuck. So Resident Evil 3 is really about Jill kind of running from Nemesis and trying to escape Raccoon City. She meets these, like, umbrella cleaners who are 3 Spanish dudes. 2 of them die, by the way. This is where I come back to the whole, they keep killing Spanish characters and I don't get it. Because these 3 Spanish dudes are cleaners for Umbrella. Oh, one of them
Can we talk about for a minute that it's kind of racist that the 3 Spanish people are cleaners?
Actually, I just realized I think one of them's Russian and I'm actually fucking up. I just realized that. I think one of them's actually Russian. I think it's 2 Spanish dudes and a Russian. I might actually be wrong. But Carlos is definitely Spanish. Carlos actually lives, though. Carlos actually lived. But I know he's Spanish not only by his accent, but he literally comments about how he has a sexy Spanish accent. One of his lines is literally like, it's this fucking sexy accent, right? That's why you're following me. I know.
Okay.
I apologize, by the way, if one of them is actually Russian and I'm screwed. Because I just realized one of their names is Nikolai, and that's definitely not Spanish. That's totally Russian, actually. I might be completely wrong. Anyway, so, which 2 of them die anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Carlos is the one who lives, but these 3 dudes, and they're like, oh man, Jill, you're cool. By the way, a helicopter's gonna come pick us up, so if you want to hang with us until that happens, we just gotta go ring this bell, and Umbrella's gonna come pick us up in a helicopter. And Jill is like, well, I hate Umbrella, but I like the idea of escaping in a helicopter, so I guess I'll go with you.
It's fair.
So
She makes a good case.
So they get to this clock tower and they're about to escape, and fucking Nemesis can apparently use a missile launcher and he blows up the helicopter with a missile launcher. So there's a whole cutscene of Jill and her she's in a sexy outfit, which I can't stand, but her boobs are jiggling and she's waving to the helicopter like, yeah, come get me! And the helicopter's like, I'm coming, babe. And it flies in, and then a giant missile just flies at the helicopter and blows it up. And she's just like, well, shit.
What Resident Evil has, like, the biggest hate boner for helicopters?
Oh, well, technically the only Resident Evil that doesn't hate helicopters is Resident Evil 1, because they actually escape in a helicopter.
Yeah,
And
or
it doesn't
wait,
blow up.
or 7, because
That's true. 7, it doesn't
Yeah.
blow up either. Okay. So, basically, so Nemesis shoots down the helicopter, and Jill is like, well, shit, and she fights Nemesis, and Nemesis technically wins. He actually infects her with the T-virus, which I hate, and it's going to be important later. So, she's now infected, and she passes out into a coma, and Carlos saves her and drags her off, and she's unconscious.
yeah.
She goes unconscious for an entire fucking day, by the way. She's out for an entire day. And that day is when Resident Evil 2 takes place.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I say 3 is a sandwich of 2. Because 3 starts, and then 2 happens, and then 3 ends.
Yeah.
So now because we're going canonically, now we're gonna jump into Resident Evil 2. So Resident Evil 2, you're introduced to 2 new characters. Claire Redfield, yes, I said Redfield. She is the sister of Chris Redfield. And another man called Leon Kennedy, who is Wombat's Bay. So, we've got Claire Redfield, who arrives in town somehow, because fucking Raccoon City is supposed to be cordoned off by this point, but I'm not gonna get into it. But she arrives in town looking for her brother. And she happens to run into this Leon S. Kennedy. It's his first day on the job as a fucking police officer. His first day! He's like, cool, I'm a cop now. I'm living my dream. And then there's fucking zombies. And Claire comes into town being like, hey, I haven't heard from my brother in, like, weeks. Is he okay? I heard he was working here as a STARS operative. And then there's fucking zombies. So Claire and Chris run into each other, and they're like, there's fucking zombies. And they get into they get into Leon's cop car, and they're driving off. And this truck driver that they showed at the beginning of the game, who's mad that someone bit him, is now a zombie. He's not important at all, by the way. I'm just bringing it up because it's a dumbass introduction. Because Resident Evil 2, it starts off with showing this truck driver, like, why did this guy bite me? And then later, he's a zombie driving a truck.
Oh my god.
So later, it comes back to this truck driver who the game started off with, and he's a zombie now, driving a truck, apparently. But you know he's a zombie, so he's not actually driving the truck. But the truck crashes into Claire and Leon's police car. Claire and Leon duck out of their doors before the truck hits them. So, you know, they duck out in opposite... Hold on.
Yeah, how
opposite sides.
serendipitous.
Yeah. So the truck collides into them while they duck out. So there's this giant, like, fire line between them. So they're both separated by fire from this truck. Because that's how that works.
Yeah.
And Claire is like, Leon, shit, you're a cop, what do we do? And Leon's like, I'm new to this, I don't really know. I guess meet me at the police station, because, you know, they're cops, so I guess they'll know what to do. Yeah, basically.
But you're also a cop.
It's his first day on the job, Deacon. Cut Leon some slack.
Do you know how much training that it takes to become a police officer?
Little bit of slack. Little bit of slack. Little bit of slack. Little bit of slack.
Okay. Teeny tiny, little tiny, itty bitty bit of slack.
Okay, so much like Resident Evil 1, if you're playing the game, it branches off into two storylines. Canonically speaking, I believe you want to play Leon. No. It might actually be Claire then Leon. Shit. And it's not important who's first, to be fair. But if you play it in the reverse order, events play out differently and non-canonically. I don't remember who goes first, actually. I really don't. I'm trying to remember, but I really don't who goes first, so it doesn't matter. But all you really need to know is that Claire and Leon each meet two really important characters of the series. Claire finds Sherry Birkin, not Burton. Sorry, I confused you. She finds Sherry Birkin. Yes, Birkin. She is the daughter of dumbass William Birkin. Yes, she is his daughter. Claire finds her. Leon meets this woman named Ada Wong. I fucking hate Ada Wong, but I'm gonna have to talk about her. Ada Wong, all you need to know...
I know that name.
I'm sure you do. She's a bitch. She's a double agent. Bullshit. That, for some reason, Leon's in love with her. It's awful, and I fucking can't stand it. And I hate Ada Wong so much. But
there was if I remember correctly, back when the demos of Resident Evil 7 came out, they thought that the person that was on the phone was Ada because it was a similar voice actress.
Yes. So Ada, when you meet Ada, she's lying. All you really need to know is she's like, oh, well, my boyfriend was a scientist and I'm trying to find him. And that's Ada, basically. And she's lying. I mean, she's half lying. She was pretending to date this guy. So he thought she was his girlfriend, which is a dick move, but I won't get into that. And I don't know, it's hinted that she might have actually loved him, and I don't even think he fucking gets a name. You find a note from him, though, talking to her, where he's like, I love you, Ada, I'm sorry this happened. So he was a real person. But she lies to Leon, like, I'm looking for my boyfriend, he went missing, and I need your help because you're a cop. And he's like, I am a cop, so I'm gonna protect and serve you, ma'am. And she's like, yeah, you are. And I don't know, there's
Oh
some
my
weird ass
God.
chemistry there. Yeah, I don't know.
Wait a minute. Wait.
Yeah.
So, 30 seconds ago with Claire Redfield, he was like, go to the police and see if they can help because they're police. But then he meets Ada and he's like, yo, I'm a cop, what's up?
Basically. It's just, I don't know. Wombat disagrees with me, but I love the Leon-Claire pairing. But I fucking hate Ada. They never get together, by the way. Just so
My
you know,
ship is more...
they don't get together, but they will forever be my ship, is Claire and Leon.
My ship gets to be canon because we're not muted.
It's really annoying because I don't want to talk about it, but there's a ton of like CGI movies during the Resident Evil franchise, and I'm not going to talk about them, but in each one, Leon meets a new fucking woman who flirts with him, and he's like, sorry babe, I've got a woman waiting for me. And he's talking about Ada, of all fucking people. He's talking about Ada. My camera's moving because I'm so mad. Hold on, I need to fix my camera. I'm so mad. I hate Ada. She can go die. I'm so mad. But, like, in one movie in particular, this woman literally, he dives to save her. They have a sexy roll-off where they're rolling around, and she's like, oh, Leon. And he's like, fucking Ada. And so, at the end, she's like, you know, we could be an item. And he's like, nah, I got someone waiting for me. And I'm just like, you don't, though, because Ada's a lying bitch. Anyway, I could get into this for a million years. I hate Ada. So Ada Wong gets introduced to Leon, and it's the biggest tragedy in humanity.
So the biggest tragedy in humanity is that Leon's into Ada and not that they're fucking zombies.
Yeah.
Continue.
I can't get over the CGI movie woman because she has the biggest tits in the universe. She's just so dumb. And when I watch this movie, I get so mad at her because she has the personality of a wet paper towel. I don't even remember her name. And I'm going off track talking about her, but I get so mad because they have like a roll in the hay, and Leon's like, nah, babe, I'm going for Ada. And she's like, well, if you ever change your mind, me and my big tits are here for you. I don't even like denouncing women to their boobs, but that's basically what, if you watch this movie, that's basically what she feels like. And it's just a walking pair of boobs waiting for Leon, who will never come. He'll just go to Ada. And I need to stop talking about this because I get so mad.
Okay, so fuck Ada Wong.
Ada Wong ruins Leon forever. That's all you need to know. Anyway, so he meets Ada Wong, and she's like, I'm looking for my boyfriend. And he's like, well, that sucks, but I guess I'll help you look for your boyfriend, because I'm actually a, like, awesome dude. So they eventually all meet up at the police station. Claire and Leon. Oh man, that actually happens before he meets Ada. I just realized I wrote my notes wrong. Him and Claire do meet up before they meet Sherry and Ada, and they find these notes from Chris. Because they go to the office where Stars was. Stars actually had an office in the Raccoon City Police Department. They had an office there. So, she finds these notes from Chris, where he was trying to talk to Chief Irons. Remember earlier I mentioned how he was telling Chief Irons, hey, there's zombies.
Yeah.
But Chief Irons is being bribed. So he's like, no, there isn't. So Claire finds these notes, and Chris is like, alright, fine, I'm leaving Raccoon City then, fuck you. So Claire is like, well, shit, Chris actually left the city, and I came here for nothing. And Leon is like, okay, well, everyone in this police precinct is either dead or gone, so I guess I'll just follow you, and let's get the fuck out of Raccoon City. So they decide to work together. So they go off in their separate ways to find an exit, and that's where Claire meets Sherry, and Leon meets Ada. And they all find this sewer system out of the precinct, and it actually leads into an umbrella facility.
Mm-hmm.
On their way during that whole journey, Sherry, who's like fucking 10 years old right now, if I recall. Yeah, she's like 10. And she doesn't feel very good. She's been really sick. And, her last name is Birkin. And they kind of realize from the notes that her dad might be William Birkin, who's the scientist at Umbrella. And she has this locket. Then she was like, yeah, my mom told me to grab this locket and run to the police station. And Claire and Leon are like, well, that's kind of weird, but okay. We'll find your mom and dad. And Sherry's like, okay, but I also don't feel so great. And then they realize that she was actually attacked by her dad when he became that monster I mentioned. Known as G. They just call him G. I don't know why. It's dumb. He's just the G monster.
Yeah.
So Sherry was actually attacked by him, and this part's kind of gross. So when William Birkin became the G monster, he gets this like tentacle arm, and the tentacle arm, when it stabs people, it actually essentially impregnates them with an embryo. And the embryo forms a little new G monster inside them that bursts out like a chest alien from that Aliens movie.
Yeah.
So Sherry has one of those.
Oh, good.
So her dad pretty much gave her a little embryo. So that's exciting.
Tiny baby.
Right, exactly, yeah. Dad of the Year award, basically. So Claire and Leon are like, well, shit. I guess since we found this Umbrella facility, maybe we can find a cure for that, because that's really bad. So they split off to try and find a cure. Which I actually think Ada is the one who tells them there's a cure, because she's a double agent bitch who knows there's a cure. So I think that's her who's like, oh yeah, I think my boyfriend totally mentioned this to me. I know, yeah, that's the favorite.
But why?
I know. I know.
Okay. Suspension of disbelief.
Pretty much. Yeah. So they go off to look for a cure, and they actually run into Sherry's mom, who pretty much lets loose, oh yeah, that locket I told her to grab actually has my husband's, like, finished work in it. Like, you know those G-Virus, like, vials the other dudes dropped and broke, and it, like, got into the rats and shit? So that locket I sent my precious daughter to go get actually has a total vial of G-Virus in it. So she's just fucking walking around with that. Because parents of the fucking year.
Yeah, right? God damn it.
So Sherry not only has like a weird-ass G-Virus embryo, her locket also has a full G-Virus like finished tube in it. And she's just a walking target at this point. And I feel so bad for this child. Who has nothing to do with any of this. But yeah, so Leon kills Sherry's mom because she's cray-cray. Because Sherry's mom tries to kill them.
Sherry's mom does not have it going on.
No, she doesn't. She's like, y'all gonna give me my daughter back and die, essentially, because my husband's work is all that matters. So I actually think Ada kills her, and that's when Sherry's mom is like, yeah, Ada's a double agent, by the way. She doesn't give a shit about you. So Ada's mom blows the, Sherry's mom blows the whistle on Ada. About that. She actually knows who Ada is, but she dies before she can tell you. Because of course. This is pretty irrelevant, honestly. I'm just gonna mention it because it brings back that whole idea that Sergei is one of the most important characters in Resident Evil, but he's literally never mentioned.
Yeah.
But apparently, before Umbrella realized Raccoon City was lost, like, when they kind of had the idea that Raccoon City was gonna be fucking lost, Sergei was like, you know what? Since we're gonna lose Raccoon City anyway, why don't I release a shit ton of experiments there so we can collect data on them? Yeah, so apparently Sergei released, like, 5 tyrants and a bunch of those hunters and, like, just monsters, like, everywhere. Because he could.
Oh my god. So, wait a minute. So those hunters that Birkin was like, I made these for you. He was like, you know what?
Yeah, they're better.
Let's just see.
Yeah, basically. He's like, well, you know, we have them. We might as well see what they do. Basically. Because literally after Marcus, Umbrella's whole goal was basically, you know what? We should just sell this and make money. So even though Birkin's idea was dumb, they were like, you know what? This might make us money. Basically. I know.
Who even knows at this point?
Basically. Okay, so they kill Sherry's mom because she's cray-cray. I feel so bad. Sherry, I feel so bad. Sherry is like Lisa Trevor, who, by the way, is like never mentioned again by this point. Lisa Trevor started out as one of the most important characters in Resident Evil, and then she's like forgotten by this point. Once the G-Virus happens, no one gives a shit about Lisa Trevor, and she just vanishes from Resident Evil history. You never hear about her again.
Well.
So, yeah, basically. So yeah, Sherry's mom dies, but from that, they do find the cure to the G-Virus embryo problem. So they do cure Sherry. So Sherry gets to live and be happy and not have her daddy's weird embryo in her.
That's a weird sentence I never want you to say again.
I know. Like, 3 people throughout the game get the embryos, so you learn what happens to them throughout the game before you realize Sherry has one, and you're like, well, shit, you don't want that to happen. Including Chief Irons. You actually run into Chief Irons, the guy who's being bribed by Umbrella this whole time. He does not escape Umbrella. He gets infected with an embryo and dies horribly. So that's at least a good part. You know, the guy who could have stopped all this, but instead took bribes. He gets to die horribly, so that's just nice. You know. Karma. Okay, so pretty much after Sherry's mom, the rest of the game doesn't matter. You know, Ada's been called out as a double agent. She pretty much comes out and is like, yeah, that's true. She, like, pretty much admits it. Like, yeah, I'm a double agent, sorry. I dated this dude just to get information on him. It's not really confirmed if she actually loved her boyfriend or not. Which I guess doesn't really matter, but I feel like it would make Ada a better person if she actually did love him. I don't know. You got the idea that she might have. In any case, for whatever fucking reason, I guess because of, you know, Japanime, she apparently falls in love with Leon during all this. And she sacrifices her life, quote-unquote, to save him. You're led to believe she dies saving him from one of the 5 tyrants Sergei released. It's a lie, which I'll get into later. She's all like, oh no, I'm dying and I'm falling off this cliff. Take the cure for Sherry. Bye. And Leon's like, no, Ada, I love you for some reason. Yeah, basically, yeah. So, Ada dies, quote unquote. Leon brings the cure back to Sherry. Sherry's okay now. She no longer has her weird embryo in her, the weird G-Virus embryo. She's fine now. She still has the locket, though. Or does she? I feel like I'm forgetting what happens to the locket. I feel like Ada actually stole that, but I don't actually remember, so I don't want to be wrong on that. To be fair, it's never really brought up again in the games.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel bad that I forget. I feel like something important happens to that locket, but I don't actually remember. I'm pretty sure Ada secretly steals it, but I might be wrong. So we're gonna just say that we don't know what happens to it, and it's literally never brought up again.
It's lost to time.
Right. Like, the whole problem with the Resident Evil series is that they broke up so much shit into notes and side lore and comic books. That, you don't know what happens to half the shit in the game, including Sherry's fucking locket. So at the end of 2, Ada dies, protecting Leon from a tyrant. They get on a train that's in the facility for some reason. Umbrella loves trains. That's what I'm learning. They get on a train. It carries them.
They love trains, hate helicopters.
Exactly. They get on a train. It gets them the fuck out of Dodge. The facility blows up because someone started the shutdown sequence or the blow up sequence. I think Sherry's mom did, but I forget. Someone set the facility to explode. Because every single Resident Evil game, the facility can explode on itself. Every single game. So they escape. And they're staring at the sunset. It's a nice, happy ending. Leon is like, you know what? bioterrorism sucks, and I was a cop for one day, but I want to stop bioterrorism because it sucks. So, Leon vows he wants to take that Umbrella. He's like, Umbrella's a piece of shit. I just wanted to be a cop and they fucked me, so I'm gonna go take care of them. And Claire is like, I gotta look for my brother. I don't know where he is, so I need to find him, because he's like the only family I got. And Sherry is like, my family's dead, what do I do? And Leon is like, well, I guess I'm going to the government, so why don't you come with me? And Sherry's like, okay, I'm 10, so sure. So they split ways.
Very cognizant for a 10-year-old.
So I always remember this date because I knew this is unrelated to Resident Evil whatsoever, but growing up, I had a set of friends who were twins. They were twins, and their birthday was October 1st. And because of that, I always remembered that Raccoon City actually was nuked on October 1st. Yeah, so Umbrella Corp nukes Raccoon City. Technically, the government nukes them. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it gets nuked. Yeah, no, they're gone. So the government is like, shit, zombies, we need to nuke them. So on October 1st, 1998, Raccoon City is nuked. And their reasoning is, shit, radiation happened, we didn't know what to do, so we needed to... Because people don't understand how radiation works.
Oh my god. Oh no, shit, radiation happened. Let's drop more radiation on it to solve the radiation problem.
Basically.
Fight radiation with radiation.
Like, there was a leak, so we had to blow up the leak. Because people in 1998 were dumb.
Yeah, let's fight radiation with radiation. That's how that works, right?
And the
The more radiation we pump, the less radiation there'll be.
And the government knew it was zombies. They were lying their asses off. October 1st.
Wow.
Raccoon City is nuked. So, I realized I accidentally skipped ahead. I forgot about Jill.
Yeah, you did forget about Jill. I was about to ask.
Before Raccoon City is nuked, so Resident Evil 2 happens, and then Jill wakes up after her day-long coma. The end of Resident Evil 3 is so quick, that's why I forgot about it for a second. So Jill wakes up, no, Jill doesn't wake up, I'm sorry. Carlos, during Resident Evil 2, is on a mission to find a cure for Jill. And this is the part of the series that I don't fucking understand. Because Carlos is like, I better go to the hospital and find a cure for this T-virus. I know. And I'm assuming it's the same. You remember that hospital I mentioned that got shut down for all the cancer patients? I assume it's that hospital, but they don't directly mention it is. I assume it's that same fucking hospital. And he does work for Umbrella, so to be fair, he probably has some intel on it. You know what I mean? Like, he probably has some intel on it that they don't really explain.
Yeah,
He does work for Umbrella.
Yeah, my question, though, would be, if he works for Umbrella, wouldn't he know about any of the multiple secret Umbrella laboratories where he could probably go and find this cure to the T-virus easier than in a hospital that knows nothing about the T-virus?
Listen, probably, but this is Resident Evil we're talking about. So, we're going to assume that he has got some Umbrella knowledge. He knows this hospital has a cure for some reason. So during the time Jill's knocked out, he finds a cure for her. That's all you need to know is he finds it because of plot bullshit. He finds the cure, he goes back, he saves her. So it's a day later. Jill is now fine. She has some latent T-virus in her, though. That becomes important later. But for now, she is fine. She's Jill. She's not going to become a zombie. Nikolai is like, okay, I know of another helicopter in the city. Let's go find it and get the fuck out of here. So they go and they escape. And then Raccoon City is bombed. That's why I forgot about Jill, because literally, like, nothing important happens after the first half of RE3. Yeah. It's just literally they find a helicopter and leave. And Jill has latent T-virus in her, which is important later. That's it. Okay. So they escape. Carlos is never seen again, like every other extra character in the game series. You never hear about Carlos ever again. Maybe he joins Billy, and they become two old men on a porch together. I don't know. But you never hear about Carlos again. He's gone. For whatever reason. So yeah. You know what? I know one of his friends who I mentioned died actually didn't die and became an agent for something, but it's so unimportant, I can't even bring it up. Like, it's just amazing how many characters in Resident Evil pretend to die and then don't actually die and do something minuscule that doesn't really actually matter, but they try to pretend it matters. So that's why I'm, like, for anyone watching, that's why I'm not getting into those characters, because they really don't fucking matter in the giant scope of things. Like, ultimately, they don't matter. Like, sorry, not sorry. They don't matter. Okay. So now we have to get into some side story before Resident Evil 4. I don't know how long we've been talking, but from this point on, it gets pretty quick. Like, the first 3 games are kind of the longest, because they deal with a lot of background lore and things like that. From here on, it's gonna go pretty quick. Like, Umbrella crumbles from here, basically. After Raccoon City gets nuked, we go into Resident Evil Code Veronica. And, okay, I really didn't want to go into any side games. I really didn't. The only reason I am bringing up Veronica is because we're going back to the fucking Ashford family. You remember them with the test tube baby twins?
I was about to say the twins.
Right. The only reason I am bringing up Code Veronica is because it deals with the Ashford family, who is really important to Umbrella. It's quick.
Okay.
It's not a lot happens. Actually, it really ends up with it being completely fucking pointless. But you find out the Ashford family, like, dies, essentially. Chris had left Raccoon City, as I mentioned. You know, Chief Irons didn't listen to him because he was being bribed like an asshole. So Chris goes off and investigates. He learns about this Ashford family. He learns about all of these secret Umbrella facilities. Like, one of them's called, like, Rockford Island, which becomes important. So he's off doing his own investigative shit.
Yeah.
So after Resident Evil 2, Claire is trying to follow Chris, her brother.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually gets caught. She infiltrates one of the Umbrella facilities she last heard Chris was at, and she gets caught, and they throw her into a cell on Rockford Island, as I just mentioned. Rockford Island is under control under the Ashfords. And the problem with Umbrella and why they crumble is they have all these little mini-sects, like all these little mini-groups who work for them, including the Ashford group, who are supposed to be sharing equal profits with Spencer, but Spencer's a giant dick who really isn't sharing. And the Ashfords are getting pissed at that. So the 2 twins, who are kind of trying to usurp Umbrella and be smart and have the better thing, they're still working on that T Veronica virus, which is an improved T virus.
Yeah.
They really don't know about the G. They don't know about really, like, what's going on. They're not really involved in that because they're out in, like, Europe.
Yeah, they're out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, I think they're freaking British, actually, based on how they talk. I don't remember, but they're out, like, on a different continent from Raccoon City and what's going on there. So Claire is a prisoner on Rockford Island. And Wesker, you remember Wesker? So Wesker, who's working for that third organization, like, comes back, and he's trying to like, steal information from Umbrella. So he attacks Rockford Island. He's trying to attack the Ashfords, because he knows Umbrella doesn't really give a shit about the Ashfords. Like, Umbrella's kind of using them for their money. They don't really actually believe in the Veronica virus. They think the Veronica virus is kind of dead. They think it's a lost cause. So Wesker's trying to steal their shit, because he knows Umbrella's not coming back for them. So Wesker attacks. During his attack, he releases the T-Virus. So poor Claire has to escape a T-Virus-ridden island while she's looking for her brother. A lot of this isn't really relevant. You know, Claire kind of gets in a fucked up situation. All this shit. But this is another side note, because I just feel like people should know about Steve Burnside. Steve Burnside is collectively agreed to be one of the worst characters in Resident Evil. And I feel bad because Steve Burnside is just like this normal kid. And his dad was a prisoner. And Steve was born in the prison, essentially. Or like under his dad. So Steve was kind of put in the prison because his dad was like a criminal. Like he became a criminal by proxy, basically. So Steve really didn't do anything wrong. Umbrella's just a bunch of
That's
dicks.
super dumb.
Right, it's this whole dumb thing. But Steve's dad was a criminal, and so they were like, well, you're probably a criminal too, so you should also be, like, thrown in here. It's this whole dumb, I know, it's this whole dumb thing. And everyone literally hates Steve because his voice is dumb. Like, literally, you should YouTube Steve Burnside and, right now, and listen to his dumbass voice. Because literally everyone hates Steve. Burnside. Burnside.
Stupid.
Stupid fucking
dumbass
voice, yeah. Yeah. It's Code Veronica is the game. So if anyone mentions Code Veronica, if you want to do Steve Burnside Code Veronica. I feel so bad.
Wait a minute. Wait a second.
Claire.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Which one? You said it's in Code Veronica?
The remake was called Code Veronica X. So if you see Code Veronica X, it's the same game. It was just a remaster.
Well, okay. So when I pull it up, there is there's two voices.
Because one of them is Umbrella Chronicles, or no.
Yeah, one is Resident Evil Code Veronica, and then the other is Dark Side Chronicles.
Yeah, so don't listen to Dark Side Chronicles. Dark Side Chronicles was released later as a compilation to catch people up on the lore.
Okay, because I was about to say,
no.
Yeah, it's a different voice actor.
Yeah,
it's Sam Riegel from Critical Role.
Right, yeah. You want to look up Code Veronica.
Umbrella Chronicles I hear it.
And Umbrella Dark Side Chronicles were two games that were made later on to catch everyone up on the lore.
Okay.
So they, like, super condensed everything like I'm doing now, so people wouldn't be confused on the franchise. Yeah.
Okay.
So you want to listen to the Code Veronica voice, because that was the original voice. And I feel bad, because if you literally mute the game and read Steve's dialogue, he's fine. He's really not a terrible character. But if you listen to his stupid ass fucking voice, you want to strangle him.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
Claire.
Yeah, I listened to that one, and then it also had the Sam Riegel voice, and I was like, well, the Sam Riegel voice isn't that bad. But
it's funny, I own Dark Side Chronicles, and I really want to play it, but I just haven't. But I've told this to a lot of people that, like, listen, if you mute Code Veronica and you just read his lines, he's really not that bad. Like, he's a little creepy on Claire because he falls in love with her, like, immediately. But he grew up in a fucking prison, so I don't know, like, what you expect from this kid who's meeting, like,
you know what? I'll give him a pass on that one. He gets a pass.
His stupid voice, like, everyone is just like, he's the worst, and I'm like, he's really not. He just has a bad voice.
Yeah, well, I mean, even then, the voice isn't really that bad.
You have to listen. Here's the thing: if you listen to him for the entire game, it's bad. Like, if you have to put up with that voice for
fair enough,
12 plus hours,
yeah.
The storyline has to be at least like 12 hours if you play that game. It's bad.
Yeah, just the clip that I heard wasn't awful. But yeah.
If you listen to that for enough hours, though, it sucks.
Anyway, so Steve Burnside.
Steve Burnside doesn't matter. That's the thing. I bring him up because he's literally, because of his bad voice, he is one of the most memorable characters in the entire franchise when he literally contributes nothing. That's literally the only reason I bring him up, is because he is literally remembered for being the voice of how bad Resident Evil voice acting is. And I feel so bad. Because I guarantee you that voice actor was directed to be that way. And, like, the island that they're sent on, where Steve is located, is in, like... Where is it located? Hold on, I gotta look. What is it called? Frickin' Rockford Island. It's, like, in some... I gotta look it up. Because they tried to emulate an accent.
Yeah.
And they just failed. And it made Steve Burnside this, like, memorable, shitty character. Like,
well, it's just... it's not as bad as, like, horror game voice acting can be, because I've played Silent Hill 2.
That's fair. It's in the South Pacific Ocean, is where Rockford Island is. That's where it lists it's located. So that's like...
weird.
What is that? Like, somewhere near Australia?
That's close to, yeah.
So yeah, so it's like somewhere out near there. So I think they were trying to emulate some sort of accent and just failed horribly at it. And
Yeah.
he became one of the most memorable characters when he literally contributes nothing to the franchise. He gets experimented on, becomes a monster, Claire has to kill him, and he dies. And that's his entire legacy. And then when he dies,
Great.
he confesses his love to Claire, even though they've only known each other for like 16 hours.
Great.
Yeah. That's literally the only reason I bring him up is because if you ever talk about Resident Evil, people joke about Steve Burnside. That's like, and I feel so bad because he's really not that bad of a character. He's an idiot, but he also grew up in a prison, and I feel bad for him. So we're almost done. Okay. So anyway, we're almost done with Code Veronica. So, okay. Do you remember when I talked about the twins, right? There's Alex and Alexia. Remember how Alexia was like, yo, the T Veronica virus has potential, so I'm gonna inject myself and go into sleep for like 15 years?
Yes.
Okay. So it's been 15 years, by the way, by this point. So, Alexander, who's been running everything, has gone fucking insane. He's gone cray-cray to the max, where he thinks he's his own twin sister. So when you're playing Code Veronica, you run into Alexia, but it's actually Alex dressed up as her, and he thinks he's her. And he actually has conversations with, like, he legit believes he's both him and his sister. Like, he develops a split personality disorder. So you actually run into him, you actually run into him throughout the game, and he thinks he's his sister, and you finally catch him where he's, like, trying to dress up as his sister, and he realizes he's doing it, and he's like, oh, wait, what? So he's gone fucking insane. He's lost his mind having to do this by himself for, like, 15 years.
Yeah.
So, he dies. You shove him off a cliff. Yeah, you have an epic battle with him, and he gets shoved off a cliff. And he falls into a crevice into the facility by happenstance where his sister is being stored. And he opens her pod.
How serendipitous.
Right, exactly, yes. So he happens to fall to where his sister is. And he's like, Alexia, I love you. I tried to carry on your legacy. And she's been asleep for like 15 years. And all she sees is her brother dying. She's pissed off. Because they're twins, so they're close. And she turns into the true Veronica virus. Her plan did work. She did become the true Veronica virus. She was right. It needed time. While this is happening, you remember their dad who they experimented on and didn't kill? They kind of just locked him in a basement. So Claire has to go kill him. Because when they push Ashford off the cliff, he, like, wakes up from from Alex's screaming. Somehow. He hears his son screaming and wakes up. And is like, I'm gonna kill you! So they kill Alex, they kill his dad, who's Alex Sr., basically. Who's a weird monster at this point.
Yeah.
So Claire and Steve try to leave, and Alexia wakes up and captures them. And she turns Steve into a monster, because she's literally a cognizant being. Like, she's legit a true Veronica virus that they've been trying to achieve this whole time. Like, she's mutated and looks like a weird plant woman. But she is still actually in control and is cognizant, even though she's mutated a little.
Yeah.
Like, it actually worked. Like, it's one of the few actual fucking Umbrella experiments that actually worked.
Yeah.
But because she woke up to her brother dying, she's pissed off and is an evil bitch. Which, granted, she was an evil bitch before, but now she's, like, double evil bitch.
Yeah.
So she captures Steve and Claire, and she experiments on Steve and turns Steve into a weird lizard monster. Before she can experiment on Claire, Claire wakes up and escapes and has to kill Steve. during this whole time, oh man, I wrote this in my notes later. So Leon, after 2, just a side note, he was recruited by the government for being one of the sole survivors of Raccoon City. So he's like a super government agent by this point. And he still cares about Claire. So he's been tracking Umbrella, and he finds out that Claire's been taken prisoner. So he emails Chris, like, yo, Chris, you don't know me, but I know your sister, and Umbrella has her, and you should do something about it. I'm part of the government, so I can't. I'm pointing at myself, because I'm Leon right now. And, Chris is like, oh, shit, okay. I'm gonna go rescue my sister then. And Leon's like, cool, I can't help you because I'm part of the government, but good luck.
Wow.
Basically. So, okay, so Chris goes and saves his sister. And while he's there, I don't know if you remember how Wesker started this whole shit by invading the Ashfords in general.
Yeah.
So Wesker's there. So Chris stops Alexia, he beats her up. Then he beats Wesker up. But Wesker pretends to be a giant-ass anime villain and leaves early. He's like, oh, I don't got time for this, I'm out. Peace, I got more Umbrella shit to do. So Wesker leaves. The island finds a way to blow up because everything in Resident Evil fucking blows up. So Chris takes his sister and they evacuate. And, this is where everything starts to fall apart. So the Ashfords were the backbone of Umbrella. They were the public face of Umbrella. Alex was running everything. And they were the big deal. Spencer, while he has money, was kind of like a hidden entity behind it. But with the Ashfords gone, Alexia and Alex, because they didn't have kids.
Yeah.
After they found out they were test tube babies, they went nuts and were idiots. And they didn't have children. And they're dead now. So now everything's falling on Spencer. Marcus is gone. The Ashfords are gone. It's literally just Spencer. The stockholders are pissed because everything Umbrella has worked on has turned to shit. Because the island the Ashfords were on, that was public domain as Umbrella. So when that blew up, the investors were like, why are our islands blowing up? We're investing money in your company. All these survivors from, like, Raccoon City, from, like, other places are like, yeah, Umbrella's a bunch of shits who are doing all this, like, terrible things.
Yeah.
So over the next 4 years after Code Veronica, Umbrella is in major legal trouble. Like, their stock falls, so many of their assets are seized. They legit, like, they get shut down. The government's pissed because they've been covering up their mistakes, and they're like, we can only go so far, bruh. Like, they're in legal battle after legal battle after legal battle. Spencer goes into hiding. He's like, oh, I'm gonna go hide in my side mansion. Because I'm rich.
As you do.
Yeah, so Umbrella gets shut down. Like, they're done. Like, the government's done covering them, they've lost too many islands, they've spent too much money. I'm really annoyed because Resident Evil 5 has a DLC here that happens before Resident Evil 4. And I'm so mad about it because it's so dumb. So they have this DLC, I've actually never played it. But what I do know is that Chris and Jill actually go and hunt down Spencer, who went into hiding. So they go hunt him down because they're like, this needs to end. Umbrella's done for. If we take out Spencer, that's it. This is over. And that's Chris's idea. So he takes Jill and they go and they try and hunt down Spencer. And they do kill Spencer. But Jill goes down with him. So Jill dies. They tackle him out a window, even though he's in a fucking wheelchair, but I won't get into that. I didn't play the DLC. This is what I've learned. But Jill tackles him out a window, and they both die. And Chris is like, no, Jill! Chris lives. And this happens either during Resident Evil 4 or before Resident Evil 4. But it's a side note that you're going to have to remember later.
Yeah.
So Umbrella's done. They're, like, gone. They've lost everything. And you don't hear about them. So, years later, we're up to Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
You know, Umbrella's done for. No one cares about them. We have, like, remembrance rituals. Not rituals, Jesus. Remembrance, you know, every year we're like, R.I.P. Raccoon City, you know, on October 1st, once a year. So, meanwhile, this entire time, after the events of Resident Evil 2, Leon became an agent for the government. He actually became BFFs with the President of the United States, because Japan doesn't understand how the United States is ran. But Leon's biffles with the President.
Well, I mean, who does at this point?
Okay, so Resident Evil 4 is super quick. Like, I have 2 paragraphs, basically, on Resident Evil 4.
Okay.
So, do you remember that flower I mentioned in the beginning? Many moons ago. Okay, we're gonna come back to that, basically. So, in Resident Evil 4, Leon is an agent of the government now. They were like, yo, you survived a zombie outbreak? Come be a fucking agent of the government, because you're probably a badass.
Your first day on the job as a police officer, and now you can just be a government official, whatever.
So he does that, and he becomes biffles with the president. And then the president's daughter gets kidnapped, because she's a dumbass. She gets kidnapped and taken to Spain. And the president is like, Leon, you're my... I know, we're back to Spain, right? And he's like, Leon, you're my biffle. Can you go rescue my daughter, who's a dumbass? And Leon's like, I guess, sure. What else do I gotta do? It's just Spain, right? So meanwhile in Spain, Wesker's there. Because, you remember that flower?
Of course he did.
You remember that flower? Yeah. So, apparently in Spain, you know those, like, those parasites in water that go up the penis and kill you? You know, those that hide in water that you hear about? So something similar to that exists, only it's a super virus. So only instead of going up the penis, it's just a super virus. So, there's apparently this super parasite in Spain that is the same thing as that stupid fucking flower. So Wesker, who doesn't know where to find this stupid-ass flower, goes to the third organization who still exists somehow, and is like, hey, you know that fucking flower Umbrella has? Well, I found an equivalent in Spain. I'm gonna go get it for you, because I'm still trying to prove I'm a badass to you guys. So he goes after this parasite, and Leon goes after this parasite. Well, technically he goes after the president's daughter. But it turns out in Spain, there's a cult dedicated to this parasite. Because it turns into a superhuman. So there's a cult that worships it. And so, that cult is who kidnapped the president's daughter. And their whole idea is they kidnap the president's daughter, and they're like, okay, we're going to infect you with this penis parasite. Even though you're not a boy. We're gonna infect you with our parasite, and you're gonna go back to the States and infect everyone with the same parasite, and we're gonna rule the world. That's their brilliant plan, by the way.
Wow.
That's their entire plan, basically.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Leon doesn't
Flawless.
Play this.
What could go wrong? Yeah.
Right. He's just told to go save the president's daughter. He goes to do that. By the time he gets her, she's already been infected. So he finds a cure. Because, of course, they have a cure to it for... Well, actually, that's not true. They do find a secret agent named Lewis, who's the one who prepared the cure. He dies, though. So I don't really have notes on him. Because, like, every side random character just dies in this series. So he dies.
You're either a main character
or you die. Right, exactly. That's Resident Evil base. Except unless you're Billy Cohen. Who's the one side character who doesn't die. Um, so yeah, they get this cure for the president's daughter. She's fine. Leon gets her out. He blows up the cult. That's basically Resident Evil 4. The whole point of Resident Evil 4 is to let you know, oh, remember that flower? There's like a parasite that is the same thing as that fucking flower. And later, the flower and the parasite are gonna have a super baby. And that's the whole point of Resident Evil 4, is that you learn that exists. That's why I said 4 is quick. The whole point of 4 is you learn the parasite exists, and you rescue the president's daughter, and the president's daughter wants to sleep with Leon, but Leon's like, nah, I'm into this chick named Ada, who's a bitch. So, no thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, we are basically, we're at the end of 4, because I wrapped up the president's daughter and rescuing her and all that shit. So we're basically getting into the Resident Evil I hate the most with every fiber of my being, and it's Resident Evil 5. And I feel bad, because at the core of my being, the reason I hate Resident Evil 5, one of the big reasons, is you get introduced to a character named Sheva. And she had the opportunity to be the most badass character. She's a black woman. The first, black woman you're really introduced to in the entire fucking franchise. And she's an idiot. And I get so mad when I think about her. Because I look at her and go, you had so much opportunity. What happened? And the biggest thing, before I even get into any story as to why Sheva sucks, is because at one point, her and Chris are on a boat. Let me preface this with, Sheva is your partner. Like, the company Chris works for assigns her to him, so they're partners. That's why you're with her to begin with.
Yeah.
You're on a boat at one point, and Sheva is like, yo, Chris, we could go anywhere. We could run away from this whole fucking situation. And Chris is like, Sheva, we have a duty. Like, I need to find out what happened to Jill. I need to find out what happened to the world. I have to do this. And Sheva, who was ready to run 2 seconds ago, is suddenly like, you know, Chris, you're like, yeah, we need to help our friends. Like, we need to do this. Like, we're the best. Like, let's go save the world. And I'm like, you were literally about to run, 2 fucking seconds ago. Not even. And suddenly Chris being like, I need to know what happened to Jill, motivated you? Because that was not a motivational speech. That was Chris being like, I don't care if you want to run, Sheva. I'm doing my thing.
Yeah.
I hate Sheva so much because she is the most, she flip-flops, she has no real personality, and she's just literally a second character to, be there for the second player. That's it. She's literally there to exist as a second character, when Master Chief has, 2 clones of himself. That's what Sheva is. And it pisses me off because she could have been a strong, independent black woman, and she's not.
You don't need no man.
Exactly! She could have been all that, and she's not! And I'm mad about it. I'm mad about it. And she's in heels. Who decided this?
Capcom.
She's in heels, Deacon. In Africa, in a backwoods village, on a fucking bioterrorist mission. She's in heels. Google
Capcom.
Sheva. She's the worst. I'm mad about it. Because she looks amazing. Heels aside, she looks amazing. And they ruin her. They ruin everything about her. I know, Deacon. You look at her and go wow, she's got potential. And then she blurts shit out of her mouth. But you know who is cool is your subordinate, Joshua Stone. I think his name is Joshua. He's really cool. Unfortunately, he dies, but he is really cool. He was great. He's your, mentor character until he dies. Anyway, so Resident Evil 5 starts out, okay, so Resident Evil 5 starts out 5 years after Resident Evil 4. So again, the important thing to take away from Resident Evil 4 is they found a parasite that works like that stupid-ass flower. And by Resident Evil 5, it's been, mutated into this thing called the Ouroboros virus. Because Wesker's a giant asshole. So Chris is now a part of this group called the BSAA. He had founded it with Jill before she died in that Spencer incident I mentioned.
Yeah.
And it's a counter-terrorist group meant to fight bioterrorism. And they recruit Sheva, and Sheva is his partner. And they're on this mission because they find out in Africa there's some dude who's trying to sell bioterrorist materials that are reminiscent of Umbrella's shit. So you go off to try and find him and stop him from selling bioterrorism crap. And it turns out it's the thing from Resident Evil 4 that's been weaponized and mutated. Cause thank you, Wesker, for doing that, you asshole. In any case, Stone, that guy I mentioned, he's trying to help you along the way, but he actually gets infected by it. You have to kill him. In his dying breath, he mentions, hey, go to this cave. It's gonna explain to you everything that's going on. So you go to, he found this cave. He tries to tell you about his dying breath. So you go there. You find an entire field of those flowers that Umbrella's been stealing for their, virus bullshit. An entire cave full of these fucking flowers. An entire thing. So they came from Africa. You're piecing that together. Not only that, you find all this litter from a company called Tricell. Now, this pisses Chris off because Tricell is one of the, not founders. What's it called when you give money? Stock investors? Right? Is it just it might just be investors. Tricell is one of the investors who support the BSAA. The organization Chris works for. So you find all this Tricell litter around these fucking flowers, and this Tricell vehicle, and all this Tricell shit, who one of the investors of the BSAA. And you find out, oh my god, Tricell found a hidden Umbrella laboratory, and they've been making fucking bioweapons. The whole thing that the BSAA stops, one of their investors is funding.
Wow.
Yeah! So, Chris is like, what the fuck? You guys... Umbrella is gone. What are you doing with one of their fucking hidden laboratories? You are killing me. So, Chris is pissed, but he continues on his mission anyway.
I mean, yeah.
Because what else is he gonna do? And along the way, he discovers, you remember how Jill died? So Jill's not dead. In fact, I'm pretty sure it was Tricell who kind of because they took over Umbrella's kind of lost assets and shit, they actually recovered her body, and they were like, we can use this. And they brought her back. So now she's got a weird boob device that's turning her evil, and you have an entire fight where Chris has to grab at her boob device and rip it off of her. So it's pretty much an entire battle where you're grabbing at her boobs. Basically. Because you find her and she tries to murder you. And she's blonde now, for some reason. In case you didn't know, because I didn't really mention it, she was a brunette before. But I guess when you turn evil, you become blonde. So she's a blonde evil bitch now. And you gotta grab at her boob device.
I mean, I guess.
And you eventually get it off. After several, what are those called where you push buttons?
Quick time events.
After several quick time boob grab events. You rip it off, and she becomes normal again. And she's like, Chris, I thought I was dead. And Chris is like, yeah, I thought you were dead too. And Jill is like, oh man, I don't know what happened, but we should stop these people. And Chris is like, yeah, we should. And Sheva's like, I agree with that, because I'm just a third-party character who agrees with things.
I agree because I'm here.
I hate Resident Evil 5, dude. It's the worst game ever. Yes, and like Wombat mentioned in our side chat, we don't even get Jill back for those things. We still have to work with Sheva. Jill is like, I'm gonna go scout ahead. And Chris is like, you do that. And I'm gonna stay with Sheva for reasons unknown. Sheva's the worst. Anyway, so the game ends with you fighting Wesker in a volcano. There's really nothing important happens after that. You fight Wesker in a volcano. Cause where else would you have an end battle with Wesker, really? So it's in a volcano, you win. And yeah, things go quiet for a while. You know, the BCA, I think, I'm pretty sure they confront Tricell, but I'm not 100% on that because it's really not mentioned in the games. Like, you're given this big clue about Tricell, and then they really don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's one of the big problems I have with the games, because this is the part where, like, because Resident Evil 5 was so bad, I really haven't researched much outside of this. But there's a big gap, where, I'm trying to think how many years it's been from this point. It's like a handful of years after 5, because Wesker's dead, and he was, like, the last thing keeping Umbrella alive. And to be fair, Umbrella did start kind of selling their bioweapons. So you have a bunch of, like, random rogue organizations who are selling off T-virus shit that the BSA is trying to clean up, and, like, nothing really important happens. And then you get to Resident Evil 6, right? And we're actually back to Leon. So Leon this entire time is still the president's BFF. Because, you know, he rescued his daughter.
Yeah.
You know, you have to figure it has to be less than 4 years, because how long is a president? But well, yeah. I don't know, because they're still BFFs, and if I recall, it's been like 5 years since 4. So, like, I don't really understand that, but I won't get into that.
Well, so, I mean, the world's probably, like, falling and collapsing in on itself at this point, so... Yeah.
I don't know how the president's rules work in this new world. So the president is feeling really antsy about the whole Raccoon City incident. He's, like, getting ready to retire, and he's like, you know, I have this immense guilt about bombing Raccoon City, like, 10 years ago. I feel terrible about it, and Umbrella was never truly blamed for it, and I feel like I should come out about it. And I'm about to talk to all these college students about their future, and I feel like I should tell them that, like, lying is shitty, basically. So he wants to come out at this, like, college students conference that they bombed Raccoon City for no, like, to cover up. Yeah, I don't know. Time. Like, he goes through this midlife crisis, and Leon is like, listen, I'm your bro, so I back you up, but I don't know if this is a great idea. I know. So he decides to do it anyway. So he's at this college, and he's about to give this giant-ass speech about how they, like, fucked up and covered up Raccoon City being bombed. And then the fucking college gets bombed with zombie bombs. So a bunch of students who are probably in debt up to their eyeballs are now zombies. Like, these terrorists come in and are like, you can't tell us about Raccoon City! Just bomb this college with zombie grenades. And
wow.
Leon's just like, well, shit.
I mean, that's a good way to get out of student debt, I guess. Become a zombie.
So, Leon has to kill the president, because the president becomes a zombie. And he's pretty upset about it, because they're biffles.
Yeah.
And you meet this woman named Helena, who's part of the Secret Service, who has no fucking idea what's going on, but she just knows Leon is the president's biffle. And she's like, did you shoot the president? And Leon's like, well, he was a zombie. And she's like, what's a fucking zombie? And Leon's like, well, you're about to find out, because they're literally all over this campus, and we have to go. Like, she's really mad at you at the start, because she's like, you shot the fucking president, and Leon's like, no, he was a zombie, we need to go. And she's like, how do I trust you? And he's like, there's fucking zombies, Helena, there's fucking zombies, we need to go.
Okay.
This is why Leon drinks. So,
Wow.
the first chapter of Resident Evil 6 is you escaping this zombie campus. And when you escape the zombie campus, you learn, oh shit, it wasn't just the college. This entire city, which I don't think they mention what city it is, but the entire city has been shot with zombie bombs. There's a giant terrorist attack on this entire city, and there's zombies everywhere.
Raccoon City 2.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's exactly Raccoon City 2. So, Leon and Helena try to escape, and Helena finds out her sister is a giant boss zombie. Actually, she kind of looks like the T. Veronica virus, and I don't know if that was done on purpose. But if you Google her and Alexia, they kind of look the same. I don't know if that was done on purpose. I have no idea. I mean, the T. Veronica virus was supposed to be a perfection of the T virus. So I could just be speculating, but they look really fucking similar. But I'm not gonna get into that. So you have to fight Helena's sister, and Helena's pissed because Helena's a fucking civilian who has no idea what's going on. And she's just like following Leon because Leon's living. So they escape. And then the problem with Resident Evil 6 is there's like 4 storylines. So Leon and Helena are storyline 1. Next you've got Jake and you remember Sherry fucking Birkin?
I do.
So it's been like 10 years and she's like 20 years old now.
Yeah.
And now she is an agent of something called, I wrote the name down, wait. The Division of something. Wait, crap, I wrote this down. I wrote this down for a reason, but there's a lot of words and I'm really drunk. The Division, it's called the DSO. Crap. Where are my notes on Sherry? Wait. I made so many typos in this. Wait. Division of Security Operations. So she's also like an agent of the government, kind of like Leon, but under a different division. So Sherry ended up getting left off with the government, basically, and became like a super soldier kind of thing. So she's supposed to be cool, but because she's a woman, they portray her shittily. Because even though she's supposedly like been trained since, you know, she was fucking 11, she acts like, I don't know what I'm doing! Guns! And it's really depressing. Basically. So she runs into this guy named Jake Mueller. And Jake Mueller is being falsely accused of bioterrorist crimes. Which you find out is because he's Wesker's son? Because somehow Wesker had a baby. Which isn't really explained either. Or if it is, I'm gonna be real, after Resident Evil 5, I really fell off the radar with the series, because Resident Evil 5 was garbage. So Wesker had a baby at some point, it's Jake Mueller, he has a different last name, I don't get it, but he exists. And Sherry finds him, and she's like, yo, you need to help me fix this. And Jake is like, I really don't want to, but I'm, you know, plot logic, I'm probably gonna have to.
Yeah.
Basically. So they go through their own adventure where they're trying to find a cure for the new virus, which is called the C virus. So we've had the T virus, the G virus, and now we have the C virus. And that's the virus currently overtaking whatever city they're in. Which actually, the city kind of looks like Japan. I don't know if that's done on purpose, or if it's based off somewhere.
Yeah, the things that I've seen of Resident Evil 6, it looks like it's like a more Asian city.
It does. And Ada is really prevalent here, and Ada is some sort of Asian culture, you can tell. Ada Wong. You know, like, she's clearly, like, I feel like it's related to that, but I don't actually have...
Yeah.
Again, I really fell off the radar with 5 and 6, so I'm doing the best from my memory here. So the last storyline is Chris and a man named Piers. And Piers was almost really fucking cool. Piers, I hate his name. And his name comes from, Paris is brought up at one point. and I think that's why his name is Piers, because I think he's related to, like, a Paris incident that happened with the BSAA, I'm not sure. But, Piers is, like, he's clearly a newbie, he cracks some jokes, like, he's kind of annoying at first, but he actually ends up being really cool. And then they fuck it all up. Because you get to the end game with Chris and Piers, and Chris has a heart-to-heart with Piers. He's like, Piers, listen, I've been doing this for like 15 years. I'm tired, bro. I want to retire. And Piers is like, yeah, man, I would want to retire too. This shit sucks. And Chris is like, Piers, can you take over for me when I retire? And Piers is like, yeah, I would do that. So you get to the final boss, and you find out my favorite character, Ada fucking Wong, is leading Neo Umbrella. So she comes back and she's starting bioterrorist bullshit. And she has this henchman named Heos, however you pronounce his fucking name. And he mutates into a giant biohazard bullshit with the C virus. And Piers, who is really cool and makes complete sense up until this fucking point, is like, man, I need to inject myself with the T virus so we can win. So Piers injects himself with the fucking C virus and becomes a giant monster and beats up Heos. Even though Chris is like, no, we can take him, don't do that. And then after Piers kills Heos, he's like, oh shit, I'm a monster. I guess it's time to die, Chris, because I can't control myself. So you kill Piers. Spoiler alert. So Chris doesn't get to fucking retire, spoiler alert, because he has to kill Piers.
Great.
Who is this close to being cool? Yeah. Fuck Resident Evil 6, by the way. I mean, less than 5, because 5 is garbage. 6 was at least tolerable for half of it.
Yeah.
So you kill Piers, and Chris gets pissed off and goes to drink. Which I forgot to mention, at the beginning of 5, he was like an alcoholic who was like retired from everything. And then the president was like, Chris, I need, or, not the president. What's the president? Well, some government agent was like, Chris, we need you. And Chris was like, I'm drinking, leave me alone. And he got dragged into all this, despite wanting to be a drunk for the rest of his life. And then he trusts Piers, and Piers lets him down because Piers is a little lying hope dropper. Piers is so cool. I'm like so upset by all this that he was like, oh, let me inject C virus and become cool. And it's like, Piers, don't. No.
God.
It makes me so mad, Deacon. I'm so mad.
I'm so sorry.
So yeah. So they continue to chase Ada. And you find these tapes. It's never really talked about. My camera's off center because I keep banging my table. So, you have to find out from some side DLC if you continue to play the game. Because, pretty much Chris loses track of Ada. He loses her. He doesn't know where she goes. But, if you beat all 3 storylines, a secret mission unlocks where you play as Ada. And you find out that Ada Wong, who's leading Neo Umbrella, is fake Ada. The Ada you are playing as is real Ada. And it turns out there's some bitch named Carla Rodmaze, who pretty much undergoes some, like, virus experimental bullshit. It makes her look like Ada, so she pretends to be Ada. Yeah, I know. I fucking hate Ada Wong. So Ada's actually not a bad guy, but everyone thinks he's a bad guy, and that's the bullshit she's stuck in. I didn't finish the Ada DLC, so I actually don't completely know what happens there. But all I know is that there's 2 Ada Wongs. Ada Wong is the worst. I hate her so much. You also are led to believe her and Leon slept together at some point. Because Leon is like, well, what about that hotel we stayed at? And Ada's like, oh, that was sweet, but I'm gonna kill you anyway. And that was fake Ada or something. I don't know. They do some anime bullshit with Ada, and I can't stand it. In any case, you're left off with a lot of questions after 6, because Leon and Helena, their story's pretty quick. They escape the college, that's kind of it for their story. Leon is like, well, that sucks. I had to kill the president. I hope the U.S. government doesn't convict me of killing the president. Basically.
Yeah.
Which Helena supposedly
Just kind of hope that they understand.
Right. Helena supposedly backed him up. So I actually think he's okay. I don't know who the vice president is because it's the Resident Evil setting. Like, I don't know where that leaves off. With Jake and Sherry, Sherry rescues Jake. She clears up his misunderstanding. So she continues to be an agent for the DSL. Like, nothing really happens with her, and I'm really disappointed because they made this whole deal of bringing her back for, like, her whole shit. Like, oh, look, remember Sherry from 2? She's a fucking secret agent now. And then she saves Jake, and that's, like, her entire story. Like, nothing happens with her. And then Jake is like, oh, Jake gets rehabilitated and also becomes a secret agent, kind of like how Leon was in Resident Evil 4. That's what Jake becomes. Chris goes back to being a BSAA agent because Piers dies, so he has no successor. So he just goes back to being, like, the Soldier 76 of the BSAA. I mean, like he's really got no choice. He's like, I guess I'm doing this shit forever.
Yeah.
You never hear about... Well, actually, that's not true. Jill comes back in Resident Evil Revelations, but I don't want to talk about that because that's really off-story, and I haven't played the games, so I don't actually know.
Yeah.
I actually have not played the Resident Evil Revelations series. That's not true. I played a little bit, and there's another stupid bitch character. And I remember her because if you're playing as Chris and he goes down because a zombie hits him, her response is, don't worry, Chris, me and my sweet ass are coming for you. And I fucking hate her. I don't even remember her name, but she's the worst. But I'm not gonna get into Reveal Relations, because that's side story stuff. It's about what Jill is doing during all this, because she's not in the main games anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not gonna go into 7, but 7 is about a whole new character, and it's years later, like years and years later. And it's a revival of Umbrella, and I'm gonna leave it at that because I don't want to get into it, but there's like some cool shit in 7. I really recommend you play it. It was a nice revitalization of the franchise. I love 7. Considering how much I hate 5, and how 6 was... I don't hate 6, but 6 was like a letdown. Like, I wanted more from 6.
Yeah.
Specifically the Chris and Piers storyline is bullshit. And I like Chris, and I freaking hated it. But yeah, that is basically where that leaves off until 7. You know, Chris has to continue the BSAA. Jill is back, and she's brought on more missions. She goes on some ship for another mission that that's Revelations, which I'm not going to get into. I recommend you play the Revelations series. It really brought back the survival horror feeling to it, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Sherry, they brought back, and they didn't do enough with her, which I'm pissed off about. I'm assuming Rebecca is leading a happy life, because you haven't heard about her in years.
Yeah.
So maybe she's like Billy and decided, wow, this sucks, I'm gonna GTFO. And I think that covers everybody. Yeah.
Wow.
That's basically Resident Evil.
Okay.
I know.
So now is the part where I have to tell you what I learned.
Mm-hmm. Good luck.
I've learned that lots of people who don't matter die.
Yeah, basically. Mm-hmm.
That everybody lies always.
Yes.
Fuck Ada Wong, apparently.
Yes, definitely.
Children are fucked because, you know, the whole Sherry situation and...
Lisa Trevor.
Yeah, Lisa Trevor.
We
Umbrella.
We never hear about her again. After the G virus is made, you never hear about her again, ever. I don't know what's going on with her.
I learned that Umbrella loves trains and hates helicopters. And Umbrella is basically a giant dumpster fire. That's that's the entirety of what I learned about Resident Evil.
Yes. You've learned well, my young Padawan.
But Anyway, I think that's it for this episode of Drunk Fandom.
That is it.
Thanks for teaching me about Resident Evil, Bat. I appreciate it.
No problem. I hope
We'll
I
see
hope
you guys
learned
next time.
lots.